What's up, San Diego? Happy Tuesday to all of you out there. Braden Surprenant shows. We get you ready for another game in Detroit. Padres and Tigers. Again, earlier start time today and an even earlier start time tomorrow. Play at 3:40 this afternoon, and then tomorrow will be I think a 10:40 start or a 10:10 start. I got to double check the schedule here that's loading up on my computer. But it's a lot better to talk to you guys, obviously, after Padres wins. Very frustrating loss yesterday. But what will be the major plot line of the majority of the show today is the Padres are in treading water territory because of obviously some of the things that have happened that have not gone their way in terms of the injury bug. I mean, most of their core group of players is on the injured list. They're missing so many guys on their starting lineup. I mean, you have different players in spots that probably shouldn't be playing there. Some actually doing a pretty good job. Others, no, not living up to what they need to do in the batting order in their position that they are particularly playing. I think one of those players definitely is Gavin Sheets, who is off to a great start to the year, and he is proving to be one of the best pickups, I think, for AJ Preller this year. I keep going back to the conversation of that Mike Schilt, or really the talking point that Mike Schilt brought up during spring training about his conversation with Tony La Russa about how you can win with this guy. You bet your ass we can. Gavin Sheets has been great. Gavin Sheets in the 2 spot was very interesting last night. Obviously, he's pressed into action because Luis Arraez is on the injured list for the next 7 days, now 6 days with concussion protocol. And it sounds like when those 6 days are up, he should be back in action for the San Diego Padres. They lost 6-4 last night, jumped out to a 1-0 lead. Detroit answered with 2 in the bottom of the first. Padres answered again in the top of the second to tie it at 2, and then Detroit again with 2 and again with 2 in the first 3 innings as Randy Vásquez continued to struggle with command. Randy Vásquez is a guy that doesn't have a lot of swing and miss, and his biggest problem is locating. And when he starts throwing the ball all over the strike zone and starts walking batters, bad things happen. But not only did he have 3 walks, he got in a lot of deep counts and a lot of hitter-friendly counts that the Tigers capitalized on in the first couple of innings. And then once they took him out, it was a bunch of zeros on the board for the Padres pitching staff. I mean, the Padres bullpen has been outstanding this season. In fact, their ERA has even dropped below a 1.5, if I'm not mistaken. I have to look back at the tidbits from Kevin Acee this morning on some of the deals that they had with yesterday's game. But that being said, Padres starting pitching yesterday, not the best with Randy Vásquez, and it was only a matter of time. It was only a matter of time. Because you look at his metrics, and we kind of hinted at that yesterday. He was poised to have a not-so-great of outing. I mean, he was getting the benefit of the doubt on a lot of different games so far this year, and yesterday was finally a day where he got hit around a little bit because he couldn't locate his fastball. He couldn't locate his pitches. The things weren't right. And again, last night, he was in a position where, and I don't know if it's an excuse or not. I'm trying to lend towards it not being that big of an excuse. But he tried to board a plate last night, or 2 days ago, like 4 times to try to get to Detroit early, as a lot of pitchers do that start the next day after Sunday Night Baseball. A lot of them got delayed because of lightning in the Houston area. So he ends up going back to Daikin Field or Daikin Stadium and hanging out with the Padres until taking the charter with the team to Detroit and then get back till 4 a.m. I think that's a tough ball game, but I think these guys are professionals. They should be used to that by now. But if you want to use that as kind of a little bit of excuse since it wasn't the best outing out of Vásquez, then sure. But you look at yesterday and overall, I mean, again, the Padres they're doing the best they can with what they have. They're doing the best they can with what they have. You look at yesterday's box score, top of the order, all contributing. Tatis 1 for 5, Sheets 2 for 4, Machado 1 for 3, Bogarts 1 for 3. Ornelas was 0 for 2 yesterday. Did get that RBI. Connor Joe did not look very good at the plate, 0 for 2. Oscar Gonzalez continues to play really good baseball for the Padres. He was 2 for 4 with an RBI. Iglesias 0 for 3, Wade 0 for 2, but he did have 2 walks. Maldonado 0 for 3. In reality, the backups and the role players didn't do that badly of a job offensively. Offensively, it hasn't really been too much of a problem for the Padres. Now, they got to do a lot better with runners in scoring position. Last night, they were 2 for 9. I think the glaring thing was only 9 opportunities with runners in scoring position. They only were able to get 2 hits with runners in scoring position compared to the 4 for 17 that the Tigers were. But I think with a lot of the players getting filled in, I think they're doing a good job of trying to, fill in for what has been taken away from them. Oscar Gonzalez, like I said, pretty good day yesterday, going 2 for 4. Base running was a little bit too aggressive. We talk about it with Chris Ello all the time. There's a difference between aggression and we're going to say unintelligent base running. Connor Joe advancing to third on the ball that got away in the infield was intelligent. That was aggressive base running. Oscar Gonzalez trying to go behind Connor Joe, that was a little reckless. Ends up running into an out, which could have been an even bigger inning for the Padres in the 5th as they try to climb back in the game against Detroit. So good base running and a good aggressive base running, while also reckless base running in the same inning, ran themselves into an out. I mean, overall, you look at, just the way the things played out for the Padres. Again, they got enough. I think they scored enough runs to potentially beat the Tigers. You needed more out of your starting pitching. Randy Vásquez is not expected to be a number 3 starter the entire season. He's just in that role right now, filling in for Yu Darvish. I would imagine when Darvish comes back, Randy Vásquez will not be part of the rotation. Maybe he jumps to the number 5 spot a little bit, and him and Kyle Hart are back and forth of being in the rotation. But with all the Padres injuries right now, they just got to tread water. That's why getting off to such a great start to the season was so important for the Padres, because of situations like this. You have no Jackson Merrill, no Jason Hayward, no Brandon Lockridge, no Luis Arraez, no Jake Cronenworth. Starting rotations missing Yu Darvish. I mean, that's a significant amount of injuries for a ball club this early in the season, and they're still tied for the lead with the best record in baseball with the Mets and the Los Angeles Dodgers at 16-7. And again, I look at the team and I look at the way that, Gavin Sheets even said it the best when talking about the ball club. I mean, we still think we got a really good team that can go out there and win games. I agree with that. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a good quote from Gavin Sheets. Gavin Sheets has been great. Is it sustainable? I think that remains to be seen for the San Diego Padres, but so far so good. And another good outing out of Gavin Sheets. I mean, talk about a great place to be hitting in the order in between Fernando Tatis Jr. and Manny Machado. He took advantage of it with a home run yesterday, and he looks pretty good. But if the Padres can continue to just, again, tread water over these next handful of games, because the Padres are expected to get guys back end of April, which is next week, really this week into next week, and into May, and maybe have everybody back with the exception of Joe Musgrove by the end of May. That's a pretty good weather of the storm for the Padres as things progress. I mean, you can look at their upcoming schedule. We'll take a deeper look at that later on in the first hour. But for a team that's not very good at hitting left-handed pitching, you got a very favorable look the next couple of games. With Detroit not throwing any of their left-handers, don't have to deal with Skubal. Tampa doesn't have any left-handers. And then you roll into next week against the Giants for 2 games. Again, just in tread water mode right now. I mean, you could get upset. People are getting upset and want to DFA everybody on the team. I saw some Jose Iglesias hate yesterday on social media. Everybody's always up Xander Bogaerts' ass. Tirso Ornelas did okay last night. I mean, that's the thing. That's why, RBIs are such a fluke of a stat in this day and age of baseball. I mean, Xander got a base hit with a runner in scoring position. Yesterday in the first inning, Tatis was held at third base. And then Ornelas rolls over on one, beats out a double play, which is good for Tirso. And then he gets the RBI compared to Xander Bogaerts getting the RBI. For all the RBI lovers out there. So again, I mean, people are going to hate. People are going to get upset about everything. You can't be living and dying every pitch this early in the season. You're going to go nuts. And especially right now with the Padres and their current health. They just got to be able to tread water. It's not like they just can't go out there and get their ass handed to them. And they haven't done that one time with this. I mean, the loss to Houston on Friday was by 2 runs. The loss on Saturday was by 1 run. The loss yesterday to Detroit was by 2 runs, and they had an opportunity to potentially tie and win the game. I mean, they had runners on multiple times late in the contest yesterday. And they end up losing 6-4. I mean, they win the next 2 games. You have a 500 road trip coming back to Petco Park, where the Padres have played way better than they have had on the road. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. You want to get your phone call on the Padres today, see what you got. Talking about the latest status of the San Diego Padres. We will be talking a little bit later in the 11 o'clock hour about the trade deadline. Already early on in the year, people always want to look at it. We got an early preview for you coming up in the 11 o'clock hour. We will also be talking a little bit of college football. They're meeting this week on the playoff format. Could television ratings factor in what seed you get in the college football playoff? They're talking about it. They're talking about adding that as part of the criteria to be able to get a higher seed in the college football playoff. What a joke that would be. Plus, NCAA is getting a major overhaul this week with the House settlement. We'll keep you updated on that. Get you a preview of Padres Tigers tonight coming up later on this afternoon. But when we come back, talking a little bit more about yesterday's game and a little bit more detail about where things went wrong for the Padres. Just getting started on Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 18 on a Tuesday morning. Padres and Tigers coming up at 3:40. Equal SoCal Padres pregame show at 2:40. Gwen and Chris will take over for me coming up at 2 o'clock. Very quick, Gwen and Chris. We'll talk about last night's game and all the just some crazy NBA action last night. I mean, the Clippers game went down to the wire against the Nuggets. You had NHL playoffs were down to the wire. I mean, there's some good sports going on right now in the sports world here in April. Yeah, people just love the Xander Bogaerts talk. Some people love it, some people hate it. Got a knock yesterday. Another knock for the Xander. He did it with runners in scoring position too, by the way. But they held Fernando at third base. I digress on that. Moving on to some points of yesterday's game. Padres lost in Detroit for their first full game without Luis Arraez, who's on the 7-day injured list. It's a concussion injured list. Vásquez struggled mightily for the first time this season. He was unable to keep the game competitive. Despite a late comeback, Padres did fall short. Gavin Sheets, I didn't mind. It's only one game. Gavin Sheets, the 2-hole was pretty good. Started at first base, hit second in Arraez's place, had a strong game with a homer and a 2-for-4 night, proven to be valuable, consistent at bats and success against righties. He's done a good job. Did a good job against lefties on Sunday. I mean, if you look at his 4 at-bats that he had on Sunday against left-handers, I mean, Gavin Sheets was pretty legit. You could pull it up on Baseball Savant. Letters to AJ had it. But Sheets on Sunday ended up taking 4 at-bats against lefties. And despite going 1-for-4, here's what his advanced metrics said. So he had a single in the 3rd inning on Sunday against the lefty. He lined out in the 5th inning, lined out in the 7th inning, and lined out in the 9th inning. The single that he had against Framber Valdez was the softest hit ball he had all night. He hit it 73 miles an hour. And it was like his worst bat speed of the night. It was on an off-speed pitch. His expected batting average on his actual hit was a 50. You look at his 3 lineouts he had against the left-hander. And again, when you're looking about Gavin Sheets has struggled in his career against left-handed pitching. He just has. Lefty-lefty matchup hasn't been his deal for the Chicago White Sox. But now as a Padre, I mean, you look at some of these numbers, and again, this is where you use analytics to basically confirm what you're seeing. And this is, I use this in coaching all the time. Not maybe with analytics, but we have different, as a defensive coach, we have different keys that we have in which we have our keys for each player of the offense, of what you're reading into the backfield, mostly with like the tackle. And so when we teach our outside linebackers or any type of players on the perimeter that are having to go run and pass responsibilities, we key in on the inline player, usually the tackle, and what they do, we react to, and then we confirm it with the backfield. So if the offensive tackle pass sets and the backfield pass sets, we know, hey, it's going to be a pass. Offensive lineman gets downhill, right? But all of a sudden the running back isn't running the ball. We're thinking maybe it's a screen. So we're letting the offensive tackle tell us what's going on, and then we confirm it in the backfield. We're letting our eyes in baseball tell us what's going on, and then we confirm it with some data. That's how you use these analytics. I mean, this is why a lot of great organizations still do use both with the scouting and the analytical side of things. You got to be able to do both. So you look at Gavin Sheets. And again, he struggled against left-handers. But you look at his exit velo on Sunday against Framber Valdez and company, all left-handers he faced. He hit the second ball 104 miles an hour, had a bat speed of 73.2 miles an hour, hit it 303 feet. Expected batting average was 680 on the ball he hit on Sunday. That was back in the 5th inning. In the 7th inning, his lineout was hit at 102 miles an hour, hit that 313 feet, 68 miles an hour on the bat speed, pitch velocity was a fastball, obviously a 92-mile-an-hour fastball. His expected batting average was 550 on that one. And then his third line out, exit velo 99.6 miles an hour, had a hard hit ball, lightning bolt on Savant with a 75-mile-an-hour swing. And his expected batting average was 380 on that. Gavin Sheets hit the ball hard against left-handers. So maybe it's at a point where Gavin Sheets needs to play every single day. Right now, he's going to get a great opportunity to do that. Now, he's not going to go against any left-handers moving forward, at least in the next couple of games. I mean, I'm sure they'll bring in a left-hander to face him maybe late in the game, but in terms of starting pitching, he could be in the lineup every day batting in the 2 spot, at least until Arraez comes back next week. But so far, so good in batting in the 2 hole behind Fernando and in front of Manny. I'd like to see him grow on that a little bit. Fernando yesterday was named the NL Player of the Week, extended his on-base streak to 22 games, leads the National League in home runs, ranks second in average and OPS. And we talk a lot about Fernando Tatis Jr. and being a lot more patient at the plate. And he's doing that and getting himself on base. And he is, as I mentioned yesterday, he has scored in half of his walks this year. Half of the time, 50% of the time, when Fernando Tatis Jr. works a walk, he ends up scoring. That's pretty efficient for a leadoff hitter. That's what you love to see out of a leadoff hitter. And the big, knock on Fernando and being a leadoff hitter was he hits the ball over the fence. We need to see guys on base in order for him to do that, which doesn't matter after the first at-bat. And he doesn't walk a lot. He just strike out a lot. I mean, up until yesterday, his strikeouts and his walks were the exact same. Chris Ello mentioned that on Gwynn and Chris yesterday. He had the same amount of walks as strikeouts. He's usually had double the amount of strikeouts as he's had walks so far in his career. But with him improving and working on his pitch selection and earning another accolade, an NL Player of the Week, he uses that as a stepping stone. He had a quote yesterday in the article he had a quote yesterday that AC put in his daily newsletter today. Those are the steps you need to take a day at a time, a week at a time to achieve big things. So it is definitely a blessing, but it's one step of what needs to be accomplished. A lot of work behind it. Tatis said Sunday night of his hot start just before he ended up winning the award for the Player of the Week. Just staying consistent. The game is really tough. People don't really know how hard injuries can take you down and change a player. So just happy where I'm at, man. I'm going to keep working harder to get even better. I could talk about Fernando. I mean, we've talked about him and his hot start ad nauseum now. I mean, the hot start's turning into an entire month. And who knows if he wins the NL Player of the Month award for the month of April. But again, he singled and scored last night in the first inning, drove in a run with a ground out in the second inning. The single extended his on-base streak to 22 games, which tied a stretch last season for the longest of his career. He leads the National League with 8 home runs and is second with a 349 batting average and second with a 1087 OPS, trailing only behind Brandon Donovan for batting average and Pete Alonso for OPS. Tatis is the only player in Major Leagues with at least 8 homers and at least 7 stolen bases. Quote, these are small steps. There are still 5 months more of baseball that would be played. That is a guy that during his career has shown signs of immaturity as a very young individual that has come up and played Major League Baseball. That is a guy that sounds like he is beyond locked in. Beyond locked in. I mean, that's what you say when you're just so focused at the plate. And Fernando, he might have to carry the torch for the next couple of games. But what he is doing right now at the plate is remarkable. And this is why a lot of people at the beginning of spring training, when they saw him taking some hacks at Petco Park before they went to Peoria, said he was poised for a very big year. And you're going to need that because the Padres need to weather the storm. Depth has been a big concern. Do the Padres have enough depth to survive the injuries? What's the schedule look like? We're going to talk about that, plus get to your phone calls when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show, standing as #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 8:33 on the Padres radio network, 97.3 The Fan, Braden Surprenant show. Tonight is Jack Flaherty on the mound for Detroit. Love to see the Padres be able to tag him. I mean, the lineup that they have out there right now, as I mentioned before, it is a spring training lineup for the Padres. And it's not their fault. I mean, they're doing the best they can with what they have. It is a spring training lineup. So I think it's going to make it even that more sweet if the Padres can tag Jack Flaherty with the lineup that they currently have. Does it make it extra sweet? Because it happened against Jack Flaherty? Yes, I think it would. The fact that Jack Flaherty gets to go against the El Paso Chihuahuas plus Manny and Fernando and Bogarts is, kind of a...
Is it extra sweet because this is against the Dodgers?
Yes. I feel a little cheated. I agree. But we'll see how this happens. Hopefully the Padres just tag his ass and we don't have to worry about it too much. But that's the matchup tonight. Padres do have Nick Pivetta on the hill. Nick Pivetta did not look very good on the road. Hopefully he will do a lot better on the road this time out in Detroit against Jack Flaherty. I think Jack Flaherty goes up and in on Manny first at bat. We see some fireworks early on. I mean, any pitch that comes close to Manny, and I think we got benches clearing with a bunch of players that were not on the team last year in the lineup. I was like Tirso Ornelas going, what's going on, man? Why is everybody so upset? We'll see what happens tonight. There might be some fireworks. There might not be.
Wouldn't want to mess with Gavin Sheets, big dude.
Yeah, 100%.
Padres added some beef.
That's right. Oh, wait a minute. It's not the way Gavin Sheets is hitting the ball right now. Definitely not. It's a spring training level lineup. I mean, that's just what you have right now. And so it is relatively a depth check. But if the Padres, win the next two, again, they just got to tread water. I mean, D-Train said it last night on Fox. Because the game was on Fox Sports 1. And if you look at what he had to say, I mean, they asked him about, are you concerned? The Padres lost 4 of the last 6 games. Are you concerned about the Padres? He said, absolutely not. Not concerned about the Padres. Once they make it through this little storm that they're in, they're going to be right there at the top with Los Angeles and at the top of the leaderboard. I would agree with that. They have proven that they could do it when they're at full strength. Dontrelle Willis said it last night. They'll be just fine. They'll be at the top of the division battling the Dodgers. Didn't seem very concerned about the Padres after their current rough patch that we are currently in, losing 4 out of their last 6 games. Again, they could flip it again today. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Talking Padres baseball with you. Maybe you guys are concerned. I'm not concerned after the start that they have had to the season. If they lose the next 2 games, you might be concerned. Even if they just win one of the next 2 and they end up having a losing road trip, I'm still not overly concerned. Talk to me next week when they start getting some players back. If they don't start getting players back, then we can start getting into concern mode. But they've built themselves up into a nice little start that they can overcome this and tread water and weather the storm. What do you think? 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. And there's good waters on the horizon for the month of May in terms of the schedule. We'll get to that in just a second. As we will get to the phone calls here. But if the schedule is not bad. It's very favorable for the Padres. I mean, this next week it is, but the month of May is excellent. Let's get to John in Coronado. John, you're on the Braden Surprenant show. What's going on?
Hey, Braden. Thanks for taking my call again. I just want to say you sound amazing, man. You really sound good.
Thank you.
I'm
I appreciate
a lifelong San Diego Padres fan. I don't know if you're from San Diego but you probably don't remember guys like I do, like Enzo Hernandez, Tito Fuentes, back when Dave Winfield and Ozzie were playing. I remember the Padres way back when. Rupert Jones. I mean, Dave Kingman was a Padre. I don't know if you remember King Kong. But I just wanted to say the Bogarts thing, we got to just call it what it is. I mean, he's just not pulling his weight for what we pay him to be. And, you just got to kind of leave it at that. In my opinion, he's just not pulling his weight. But the Padres are doing fantastic. And thank God we don't need him to pull his weight. Like I said, we got
Let
Johnny,
me ask
we
you.
got
I
Machado.
gotta ask you this, John. Let me ask you this.
Okay,
How many home runs do you want Xander Bogaerts to hit in a season?
20 plus, bro. I mean, he's got to hit 20 plus for 25 mil.
Well,
He's got to hit 25 plus. He's got to drive in 80
well,
to
he
85.
He wasn't doing that in Boston. He only did that
Correct.
twice.
He was not doing that in Boston. They should not have given him the contract.
All right.
To
well,
begin
is that
with.
so? Just you signed,
100%.
but that's the
He
guy
hit
that you
16
signed, though. John, that's the guy.
16 to
John. I'm gonna put you on hold, brother. Relax. That's not the guy that you signed. This is the guy that you signed. So even though you're paying more, doesn't mean you're going to get more out of the guy that is already done. And this is what he is. Again, you go look at real estate. I mean, if you decided to pay, and now it's different now, but if you go to Carmel Valley and you spend a lot of money on a house in Carmel Valley, and a lot of those houses are nice, and a lot of them are, suburbia America, and you expect to have the size of a house of Rancho Santa Fe because you paid for a Rancho Santa Fe level house, and that's what the house you got. It doesn't just expand into a Rancho Santa Fe house. So you can't. That's what I'm saying on the unrealistic expectations. Yeah, I mean, most guys getting paid $25 million. You would want that to be. Again, you're mad at the wrong person. You're mad at the wrong person. John, I do appreciate the phone call, though, man. I appreciate you calling in. To answer your question, I am from San Diego. I'm a fourth-generation San Diegan, but the names you mentioned were before my time. I was born in 1995. So, anyway, but that's the situation of the deal. There's a lot of great houses you could buy. There's a lot of good real estate you can buy in San Diego. But when some of the houses are overpriced, you can't assume that your house is going to be what is when you were, when the past, or sorry, you buy a house in Claremont. That's, a lot of people bought those houses for like a couple hundreds of thousands of dollars a long time ago. And now you buy it for like $2 million because that's what the market is. You can't expect the house in Claremont to look like a house 8, 10, 15 years ago for $2 million by the beach. It is what it is. Again, you overpaid for it. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's get to Charles and Ramona. Charles, you're on the Braden Surprenant show. What's going on, man?
Hi, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well.
So I got a couple things that I'm concerned about. First, my first thing, Vásquez, he's been great except for obviously his last out. But I'm real concerned with his command because even in his good performances, his ball to strike ratio has been off, and good teams are going to take advantage of that. So that's one thing I'm concerned about. And another thing I'm concerned about is the injury bug. I know they're saying nothing serious, but I'm just got in the back of my mind, oh gosh, these guys are going to be out for who knows how long, even though they're saying it's going to be short, but it's just always in the back of my mind that it's just going to be nagging injuries for the rest of the year, and we're going to be stuck with this, as you said, AAA, AA, or minor league lineup.
Charles, your PTSD's talking, man. I get where you're feeling. We've been there. I understand. There's been a lot of times where it's been like, hey, it's good, and then 60-day injured list, and you're like, what happened? Where'd everybody go?
Yeah.
I understand that, but until that starts, that you gotta let. This is a different situation.
Right.
The reports we're getting from a lot of people in the media are suggesting a little bit different than that. I would not be shocked if the Padres had all of those players back in May. I mean, it sounds like, again, hamstring injuries. I mean, just where we're at with the hamstring injuries. I mean, you've already gotten up to about around the time, it's about a 4 to 6 week injury for a tear of a hamstring. They haven't said that he tore his hamstring, but even if they were, being cautious about it to the media, and he did tear his hamstring, we're still we're like 2 weeks away from Jackson Merrill potentially coming back. He's not going to be out for like 3 to 4 months with a hamstring injury that nobody even noticed him doing during a game. So you're going to get guys back. They're going to be coming back, and you're going to be in a good spot. As for Vásquez, and Charles, I appreciate the phone call, my guy. Thanks again. As for Vásquez, I mean, the biggest knock on Vásquez, again, is balls and strikes. Guy doesn't throw a lot of strikes. You can't be a successful pitcher in Major League Baseball and not throw strikes. And he's been trying to work on it and everything like that, but you got to be able to throw strikes. The walks were a little bit down, but still 3 walks in the amount of, I mean, how many innings did he even record yesterday? Like 2.5, 2 1/3? But anyway, I mean, it's still a lot. That's still a lot of walks. He went 2 innings and walked 3 batters. I mean, he's got to get his walk rate down. And when he wasn't walking batters, he was running up counts. He's getting his pitch count really high. He had like 50 pitches in the first 2 innings. He finishes the day with 68 pitches in 2 innings of work. I mean, that needs to be fixed. Again, you're not asking Randy Vásquez to be a dominant ace. You're not asking Randy Vásquez to have a sub-2 ERA like he was before. But you are asking Randy Vásquez to keep you in a ball game, not burn your bullpen, and give you an opportunity to win. And last night he didn't do that. So enough. Tough for Randy. Again, we knew this was. We knew it was coming. But based on some of the metrics that he had, again, the process versus results, the process was not in a good position for Randy Vásquez, where you think it was going to be a situation in which, I mean, it was bound to happen. An outing like last night. You got to be able to overcome that. And the thing is right now, with the injury bug, you can't afford to have Randy Vásquez have those outings and look like last year's Randy Vásquez. Not right now. So hopefully Nick Pivetta can pick up the torch for the Padres. Again, they're not making excuses. That's why I love the narrative of this team right now. We got to go find a way to be better. Winners find solutions. And you got a tough task in front of you with the lineup they're rolling out there. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Ben in San Diego, what's going on, man? You're on the Braden Surprenant Show.
Hey, good morning, Braden. Just wanted to talk about Padres. I feel like we're doing pretty good this season. I mean, Tatis is showing up. Every game we seem to lose except a couple. We're competitive. We're in it till the 9th. So I understand we got injuries, and, those are going to come up through the season. So just wish Jackson speedy recovery. When you get a strain, you don't want to come back too quick and injure it. So take his time. Pitching, bullpen's been awesome. So, Bogey's been playing good this year. I don't really want to get on him, but he's been doing his job. He's been hitting RBIs and timely hits. So I think we're doing awesome. If we can get healthy, get Arraez back, get Merrill. Of course, we're missing Darvish and Musgrove, which doesn't help, but I think we're doing awesome. I mean, this road trip is going to be tough, but we're going to come home. Hopefully we can beat Tampa. And I think we're doing awesome. So I don't really want to get too negative or think ahead. But right now we played great in the first 24 games. So if we keep playing this good and maintain till we get our guys back, I think we're going to be perfect.
Man, I appreciate the phone call, man. Got a little optimism. I mean, they got a little bit of issues right now, but right now, it's just it's injury related. You got to be able to overcome that. And the Padres are still the best team in baseball, tied with the Dodgers and the Mets at 16-7. It's going to go through cycles throughout the whole year. We said this during the beginning. Padres 7-0 start to start the year. You knew that eventually they were going to have a little bit of a downturn. This is not even that big of a downturn. I mean, they're in every game. They're not. I mean, it doesn't look like they're lost up there. They're doing the best of what they can. I think this is a great time to really find out what you have. College baseball teams would love to have a long of a season where they can figure out what they got on in their club, but they don't have enough time to figure it out and try to get guys at bats. Baseball is a weird sport. I mean, you need a ton of at bats to see and showcase what you got. And right now, a lot of your bench pieces. I mean, these are all bench pieces. Guys that are in the lineup right now for the Padres, bench piece guys, role player guys, platoon guys. Tirso Ornelas, Oscar Gonzalez, Jose Iglesias, Tyler Wade, Martin Maldonado, Yuli Gurriel, Connor Joe. Even Gavin Sheets is a platoon player. You are finding out right now. This is a blessing in disguise. I'm going to say it right now. This is a blessing in disguise, the injuries early in the season, because you are seeing and giving role players, platoon players, bench players at-bats and reps early in the season in a consistent basis to see what kind of depth you actually have. You're starting to see that Gavin Sheets is a major asset to this team. Again, small sample size at the beginning of the season, but he's an asset. Oscar Gonzalez is proving to be a valuable asset for the San Diego Padres hitting 300. Work on the base running a little bit, but a valuable asset. We've seen it with Jose Iglesias. He's now hitting 275 on the year. He's a good defensive player, a valuable asset. Look, I thought Tyler Wade's at-bat, his first at-bats this season, his first game, were awful. He walked another two more times last night. He's hitting 278. I mean, he's showing value to the team. Now, you can't survive having all of those players I mentioned start every single day. You're not going to be very good. You're going to be the 2018 Padres, 2019 Padres. But when you get Merrill back and you get Lockridge and Hayward and Arraez and Cronenworth, and you get all those guys back, now we start pushing it down. You build more depth in the organization. It's a more well-rounded roster. And you could do a lot more. And then you go like, well, we get to see Gavin Sheets go against left-handers because he has to do it right now. And we're going to see if he can start every day. We're going to see if Oscar Gonzalez can spot start or if he's just off the bench. We're going to see if Tyler Wade can stay in the big leagues. I mean, these are all blessings in disguise, and this is the best time to have it early in the season when you can overcome maybe struggling a little bit. And again, the schedule is very favorable in the month of May. Very favorable in the month of May. But, people are concerned. Lost 4-6. A lot of holes, obviously, right now. But again, with injuries, it makes a lot of sense. Just got to be able to weather the storm. 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. You want to get back to your phone calls. And a lot of people weighing in, which is great. We're talking Padres baseball. That's what we're here for. We're here to talk Padres baseball. But again, tough night last night. The fact that they only lost by 2 when they got in at 4 a.m. is pretty remarkable. Let's get out to Alex in Hillcrest. You're on the Braden Surprenant Show. Alex, what's going on?
Hey, Braden. Thanks for having me on. I just want to talk about Xander Bogaerts' expectations. And, the only thing I'm really looking for, I know it's an outdated stat, batting average nowadays, but, if you're up around the 300 mark, I don't even need to look at any other stats on anything. You're going to be in the starting lineup. I think, we can adjust it nowadays for pitching anything above 280. If he's hitting above 280, I think he's making his money. He's done that for, most of his career, if you look at his stats. So I just think that's the expectation. Just get on base and, set it up. Tatis and Machado, those guys are the needle for this team. And I think people are getting mad at Xander because they're afraid to get mad at Tatis. He's got to go out there and win an MVP. He's got to go out there and, be our Shohei Ohtani, where he can just, win a game for us. And, the Padres go where Machado and Tatis are going. They got to win an MVP. And Bogaerts, if he can just hit above 280 and play 150 games, he made his money. That's really what I'm thinking.
Alex, I appreciate the phone call, man. High average. I mean, that'd be around what he was getting paid to do in Boston. In Boston. Again, you can't compare him to his 2019 self. He was never going to be that player. If that's the player that you were expecting, investing in 30-year-olds is not a good idea for you because it's not been a recipe for success. I got a lot of the numbers on that we'll talk more on the show on Thursday. We're off tomorrow because of the Padres-Tigers game starting at 10:10. But we want to continue the phone calls, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Got time for one right here. Mitch in New Jersey, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. Mitch, what's going on?
How's it going? Brandon, thanks for taking the call.
Absolutely, Mitch.
Yeah, it's kind of like devastating with these injuries. Oscar Gonzalez, he's 6'5", 240. I would like to see him. He's got Nick COVID size. So I'm hoping. I wish maybe this tells us a little bit of a bad sign for our minor league that we can't. Well, especially Musgrove and Jackson Merrill. It's really disappointing not to see them in the game right now. Got like a pitching, and I was at the game, Baltimore and Cincinnati, and I tell you, Cincinnati's lineup on Sunday is not as good as our current lineup it is, and somehow they put out 24 runs. I never seen a game like that. It was it's like history being made. I just want to compare Cruz to Tatis. As I hope that Tatis can play like him. Like they're like borderline. These are both superstars. I guess Cruz steals more bases, but he plays shortstop. I guess they had to move Tatis to outfield. I know it's not going so well, but just
Mitch, I appreciate the phone call. We're running into a break here. Yeah, Padres lineup's pretty good. I mean, compared to a lot of other teams in Major League Baseball. That's why, again, I feel like sometimes we get so laser focused in San Diego on the Padres ball club that you forget that you look around and other teams that are still competitive teams have a lot bigger problems than the Padres do. Want to continue your phone calls when we come back. Corinna, Kevin, Travis, we'll talk to you at the top of the hour at 11 o'clock. If you want to join the show, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Padres' upcoming schedule in May, very favorable, even with an injured lineup. We'll talk about it next on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego Sports Station 972. Everybody listening on the radio. Everlasting Lover, 49 Winchester. Probably one of my favorite songs right now. This early on in the year, re-airing this Cubs Diamondbacks game on MLB Network. I mean, you got Major League Baseball in full force right now. Every team is in action today. A lot of great talking points, and we're re-airing a ball game. I don't get it. Whatever. I saw Prolific in the chat. I don't know which chat he's on. He might be on ours or whatever, but we are streaming on Braden Surprenant page as well on YouTube. And for him, he's trying to get the Braden Surprenant show up to 500 followers. I appreciate that, Prolific. You can follow me on @B_SURP on YouTube, just like you can do it on all other social media outlets. And I see 10 of you on there. So hello to the 10 of you on that page as well. Want to keep growing the show. Prolific's over there in the chat. Again, I see all the chat in one particular chat column via StreamYard. So I have everybody from 97 through the fan, from the YouTube, from Twitch, and from the Braden Surprenant show page as well. So appreciate all of you guys. Follow me on social media @B_SURP, @BSURP. I saw Go Aztecs on Twitch talk about the TCU football game that's going to get moved to Ireland next year. That was the big news. I found that out yesterday behind the scenes. They were going to have this big announcement today, and then it kind of leaked a little bit. As a season ticket holder for the Frogs, I have now received thousands of emails about flying to Ireland in 2026 to go watch the Frogs play North Carolina. I'll tell you how I feel about that later on in the show, because I think Adam's got that entire story in the sports thread. But yes, I did see that. TCU basketball has officially announced that they're coming here for the Rady Children's tournament. So that will be fun to see Jamie Dixon and company here in town. They'll be playing that tournament at the Jenny Craig Pavilion over at USD. So the good news for a couple of things, with USD hosting that tournament, I will not have any work obligations, and I can go watch TCU basketball over the Thanksgiving holiday. That's not the only major announcement. There's one for San Diego, Petco Park, and Adam Paul even put it in the chat. And I'm sure we'll talk about this in the sports thread. But Petco Park will host WWE Survivor Series on Saturday, November 29th in partnership with the San Diego Tourism Marketing District. This marks the first WWE Premium Live event to be held in San Diego since 2008. Fans are encouraged to register now to receive an exclusive presale offer by visiting Padres.com/WWE. More information on general ticket on sale date will be communicated at a later date. The WWE, for me, once it was explained to me by WWE fans, I totally understand it now. I don't watch it. It's not my thing, but I get it. Before I was like, why would you ever watch this? It's a scripted deal in which every WWE supporter is like, it's not, you can't watch it like a sport. It's not a sport. It's like watching a television show. It's like watching a drama or a sitcom. I mean, that's what it is. And that's why people get so into it. Just like, when people watch Netflix series and everything like that. This is it. They have the WWE and the fans they're into it. It's not a sport. It is a TV show. That's why it's scripted. But anyway,
You're clearly not a wrestling guy.
I'm not.
Doesn't sound like you've ever been a wrestling guy.
I was never a wrestling guy because I was always into I viewed it as a sport. I didn't fully understand wrestling until apparently all my college roommates and friends in college were just diehard WWE fans. In fact, 2 of them were at WrestleMania over the weekend. In fact, one of them, Jordan, was in line for some event, and he was talking with somebody from San Diego that told, and I don't know if he was watching our show on YouTube, but the guy was like, "Oh yeah, I know him. He was a big fan of the Braden Surprenant show." And Jordan started freaking out, and I was like, "Well, good. Tell him I said what's up then."
Assuming you've never been live to any of these events.
No, I've never.
I've been to a ton of them.
Are you a WWE guy?
I'm born and raised in Atlanta. It was like the heart of wrestling country back when WCW was huge, because it was on TBS, and Turner is based in Atlanta. Been to a ton of them.
So do you still watch?
I don't
Do you show it to
anymore,
your
but I was
kids?
huge into it in high school, in middle school, growing up.
Yeah, they were all into it, and when I was, I remember I would take Monday night class because when you working for the football team, you got to sign up for classes before anybody else. Like you were on the football team, and Monday nights where we wouldn't have practice on Mondays, so the players would get their classes in on Monday nights. So I always had a Monday night class because we didn't have practice, and it was an easy way to check off a class. And I mean, growing up on the West Coast, games would start at 5, right? So like by the time my class would be over at 8, I would just assume that Monday Night Football would be over, but it wouldn't be like it wouldn't even be like halftime yet. And so I'd come home from Monday night class wanting to watch Monday Night Football, and every time, and I had my room, or I shared a place with 3 other guys. They were just locked into Monday Night Raw.
Totally.
Just locked into it. I had to watch Monday Night Football on my phone because they were just so into it. And I started learning the characters. I mean, I was instead of being antisocial, living in my room, I just started to pick it up and was like, hey, what do we got? And so I learned a little bit. I know who most of the wrestlers are and everything like that, but it's a huge event. I think it's going to be a huge event here in San Diego. There's a lot of WWE fans here.
So here's the question. Will any Padres be in attendance in the crowd?
If I had to pick one, it'd probably be Joe Musgroves because he's our resident local guy.
Exact thought.
That would be it.
I can see Jackson Merrill there, though.
I think it depends on, like, at that point in time,
November 29th, holiday time.
They're still going to be hungover. They're still going to be hungover from the World Series parade that the Padres have. So it's just whether or not honestly, it just depends on the players that stay here during the offseason. And Joe stays here, obviously. Manny's got a place here, but that would be my guess. Just some of the guys that stay, that have bought places here.
I had the opportunity a couple times way back when I was in high school to go backstage and meet a couple of the guys a couple times. This is years ago. I met Hulk Hogan, and this is one of the times when his leg was broken, and I'm using air quotes for those on the radio. So he would come out in a wheelchair with his leg propped up and a cast on, and then backstage he's just up walking around and everything's fine. I met Goldberg, who was very popular at the time. He was huge. He's Jewish, and asked him what he was doing for one of the big Jewish holidays that was coming up. So I mean, nice guys. I grew up on wrestling.
Does Goldberg live here?
Here in San Diego?
Is he the one that lives here?
I'm not aware.
You're
Mr. San Diego.
I think he does. I want to say he lives in Fallbrook because I've seen him at Padre games.
Played football at UGA, by the way.
I think doesn't he go to Padre games? Where's my wrestling fans? They always put one. They always put one of them on. He used to live in Rancho Santa Fe. He used to bring his kid to the games. I used to see him at Padres games, like all the time. He had season tickets. I think it was Goldberg. I get them all confused. I mean, there's a lot of them that are kind of the same guy. I think it was Goldberg. And so I think he used to, yeah, exactly. Because I'm pretty sure they put him on the big screen a couple of times and chant his name. Who's the guy? The yes. I forget that guy's name. That was a big deal. I'm sure everybody in this chat can't see me. John Cena. John Cena. Yeah, apparently. John Cena has a house in La Jolla. I think I knew that. He was
I think the San Diego wrestler many people are referring to as Rey Mysterio Jr. Right?
Well, yeah, he's actually from here. I think, don't the Bella twins live here? Is that what they're called? I think they live here. There's a decent amount of San Diego wrestling connection with WWE. So I'd imagine it's probably I think it's going to be very popular here in November.
Oh, that'll be sold out.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I would recommend getting the pre-sale tickets as soon as humanly possible. But it's going to be outdoors at Petco Park. Those wrestling events, I've seen a lot of those pay-per-views in my time now. They're massive. I mean, they set, I'm pretty sure the WWE sets attendance records for every building they're in. Now, that being said, you could fit a lot more people with the small ring compared to basketball and football and everything like that. But I think you have a lot of, here's all the local connections in the chat. We have a lot of local connections to the WWE in the chat. Want to get back to your phone calls, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Corinna had to hang up. She put it out in the chat. Try to call back later. Feel free to do that, Corinna. We really appreciate you joining our shows. Let's get out to Kevin in Chula Vista wants to weigh in. Kevin, what's going on, man?
Hey, Brady. Thanks again for taking the call. Interesting discussions on the past history as it relates to Xander and the state of where we're at and why we're at. I tend to look at this from a historical long picture standpoint. I don't have any reservations or qualms about the current statistics of Xander. I think they're getting what they can out of the man, and he's a plug-in. And they're waiting for DeVries to mature and come up, and I think Xander will be there until that day comes. Having said that, I was never in favor of the acquisition in the first place because at the time, the Padres had a number of shortstop possibilities, and to spend $280 million on a position that you already had settled, and that was proven by the Hassan Kim move to shortstop and moving Xander to second. That's where I think people are getting a little bit, ruffled about the expectations on the $280 million. Yes, it is attached to the salary and the expectations because of the amount of money you spent. And on top of that, as one caller pointed out yesterday, that money that you've spent on Xander at this point could have been spent on a number of players to add much needed depth and quality to this roster, which at this point we're paper thin, and we're going to, as you say, find out what we really do have with what we have right now. The same thing can be had when you go back, and I don't want to re-prosecute the Soto trade, but let's look at what that delivered us. Essentially, the Padres got the second best part of that deal. The Yankees got the worst part, and the Nationals got the best, in my opinion. And we ended up with Michael King for Juan Soto. And so we wanted immediate gratification with Soto to get us to the World Series. Didn't happen. We wanted a division championship with Juan Soto. Didn't happen. So we've got to go back and look at our own needs, wants, and desires at that time. It sounded like a great deal to get us to where we wanted. We came up snake eyes. So now we're paying the price. The Pipers and the baseball gods have caught up to the Padres this year with the injuries, and we're just going to have to get through this, figure out what we got. We can't re-prosecute the past other than to understand it, hopefully not to make those mistakes again. And I don't think AJ would have made that deal with Boston or with Xander had it not been for the owner insisting on having a shiny new ornament for the next following year, considering that they lost out on Trey Turner. They were rejected by Aaron Judge, and the owner wanted to have something to show for it, which is fine. That's his decision. But now we're paying some prices for what we did, and that's all we can do. We can just hang in there and see what happens next, and hopefully AJ can pull more rabbits out of his hat.
Well, we got an interesting trade deadline preview we're going to get to here in a little bit. Kevin, I appreciate the phone call. I don't necessarily know. I mean, I think you can make an argument about the Padres. I mean, the Yankees definitely got the worst end of the deal out of all three teams, if you want to just talk about it from a three-team trade. And you know what? Trent Grisham's having a great start. Trent Grisham's off to a great start. Maybe Trent Grisham's really picking it up. But you wouldn't have Michael King. You wouldn't have Dylan Cease. Right? Remember, I mean, the Dylan Cease is here because you traded Drew Thorpe to Chicago, which was part of that Yankees deal for Juan Soto. So Juan Soto turned you in. You got Michael King, you got Dylan Cease, you got Kyle Higashioka, you got Randy Vásquez, you had Johnny Brito. I mean, those are all really good depth pieces to have for the San Diego Padres. I mean, the only thing to me that makes the Nationals the bigger winner is if James Wood turns into Juan Soto or 3/4 of Juan Soto. Then I would say, like, okay, well, you could have had this guy at the big league level. But again, when you look at all these, post deals like that, it's hard to, you can't take the best 9 guys from a chunk of time and put them on the Padres and expect that was going to be at one point one of your teams. I mean, somebody usually has to go, when you try to go back on trades. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Could this be the worst trade deadline coming up? There's a lot of factors that might make this the worst trade deadline ever. How does this affect the Padres? We'll talk about it when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 11:20 on a Tuesday. Today's Tuesday, right? I was so thrown off yesterday because he had the Sunday off, and not only that, I had the Disneyland on Sunday, and then yesterday I had college baseball yesterday. USD and San Diego State played each other, and it was a pretty good game yesterday at Fowler Park between the Toreros and the Aztecs. A lot of local products playing in that game. It was Rex Watson with a 3-run homer late in the ball game to put USD over the top on San Diego State. They split their 2 games against each other 1-1. And now in the overall standings, USD is now 2-1 against the local teams in town. San Diego State drops to 2-2. They split with UCSD and now split with San Diego. And then UCSD is 1-2, and they have one more game against the Toreros later on in the year. And so that will be interesting. That was a little city championship in college baseball. USD jumped out to a 5-1 lead. San Diego State put up 5 runs in the 5th inning, all with 2 outs. And then USD later on in the contest, 3-run homer out of the freshman Rex Watson, who has continued to put up some really big numbers as a freshman. AJ Beltre is on the team, the son of Adrian Beltre. It's a fun team to watch. They're going to be playing in Spokane this weekend for first place in the West Coast Conference against the Gonzaga Bulldogs. If they take 2 out of 3, they will be tied for first place. If they sweep the Bulldogs, they'll be in first place by themselves, and everything with that. So there's a little college baseball update. Again, a Monday night college baseball game, really odd. They will be in action against UC Santa Barbara on Monday next week. But a long digression because I thought yesterday was Tuesday, but it's not. Today's Tuesday. Padres will be playing the Tigers coming up at 3:40. Ecowater SoCal Padres pregame show at 2:40 on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Game tomorrow is at 10:10 in the morning, so a 9:10 pregame show with Sam Levitt. The Ecowater SoCal Padres pregame show tomorrow will be at 9:10, so we'll preempt Ben and Woods. Ben and Woods will have a little bit of a shorter show tomorrow. We will be off tomorrow, and then I'll be back with you guys on Thursday. Roundtable in the morning from 10 to 11. Braden Surprenant show 11 to 2, and then I am back for the NFL draft show that we will do on 97 through the Fan. Myself, Chris Sello, Matt Scraby, we will be covering the first round of the NFL draft coming up on Thursday. It's a Padres off day, so going to be a fun day on Thursday. That's why I'm resting up tomorrow. And then we will get you ready for Padres baseball against the Rays on Friday. Tampa is in town for 3 games, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Padres will be off on Monday, and then they'll be back in action on Tuesday against the San Francisco Giants. I wanted to mention the schedule moving forward. And again, we'll talk about the upcoming trade deadline preview that we have for you. Really early on, it's got a lot of symptoms of being kind of a dud, but maybe there might be a plethora of moves, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But you look at the upcoming schedule for the Padres, and again, I mentioned before, they're in tread water mode. They just need to tread water right now for the next couple of games. You look at what they got. They got the Tigers for the next 2 days, and then they got Tampa, then they got San Francisco at home. Off day on Thursday, off day on Tuesday, and another off day next Thursday. And here's the month of May. Okay, you should be getting players back during this month. Not a lot of insane competition for the Padres. They will play a 3-game series in Pittsburgh, Friday, Saturday, Sunday of the first weekend in May 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. They will take on the New York Yankees on the road Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the 5th, 6th, and 7th. And so that might be a little bit of a challenge, but by that time, you should have Jackson Merrill back in the lineup. You definitely should have Luis Arraez back. I know it's tough to play at Yankee Stadium, but the rest of the National League West has had some success against the Yankees. Diamondbacks went in there and took 2 out of 3 already. Giants went in there and took 2 out of 3 already. So the competition you're battling with has not had issues with the Yankees on the road, and you should be closer to full strength. Then they go to Colorado, which has been kind of a tough spot for them, but we watched the Rockies here. I mean, that is a rough team. And so that's the road trip to start the month of May. They come back and take on the Halos, even though they've gotten off to a better start than a lot of people anticipated. The Angels are starting to come back down to earth. They're a game above 500. And then you got the Seattle Mariners, who are starting to heat up a little bit, but they're only 2 games above 500. Again, when you look at the American League, it's just not very good. You should be able to do some damage against them, especially at home. You'll have a tough trip to Toronto against the Blue Jays, maybe. In the middle of May, May 20th to the 22nd, a midweek series in Toronto. And then you'll go down to Atlanta, who you've already won the season series against. They should be a lot better. Braves are starting to play a lot better baseball as of late, but they still have their own problems. You play the Marlins at home Memorial Day through Wednesday. You'll play the Pirates at home, and that will finish up the month of May. So even though you have injuries, this is the point where, you could get your players back. This is a point to rack up some wins and really get you set for June, because once June rolls around, once you're done with the Pirates on June 1st, you got 4 games in San Francisco, 3 games in Milwaukee, and then you got the Los Angeles Dodgers 7 times in 10 days with the Arizona Diamondbacks in between. That is your rough patch, is June. But you should be able to dive in the month of May and rack up a handful of wins. And that's why when you're looking at the injury bug and you're looking at where everything stands with the Padres and their, AAA lineup that they have right now, and and just with the injuries, this is a weather the storm point of the season, and you were going to have that at certain points in the year throughout the entire year. And this is one of those first spots. You got to really rely heavily on Fernando. You got to hope guys like Gavin Sheets can continue to step it up for the Padres. Guys like Manny Machado, who has also been extra patient. We haven't gotten to that yet. I mean, we talk about Fernando being extra patient. Manny's been super patient. And so you're in a really good spot. Again, this is why getting off to a great start to the year is so important for times like this, for rough patches with injuries and difficult schedules coming up in the month of June. What's the trade deadline going to look like? We got an early preview for you on the MLB Trade Deadline. Is this going to be the weakest MLB Trade Deadline ever? Got a lot of symptoms of potentially not having a lot out there, especially with some of the contract extensions. We'll explain it more when we get back on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 7:34 on a Tuesday. Happy Tuesday, all of you. Braden Surprenant Show. Thanks again for tuning in, making our day a part of yours. If you haven't done so already, give us a follow at B_SURP, at BSURP. You can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and on X. I'm going to try to crank out some social media content for you on some of the big moments from last week and moving up some evergreen content for you. I do have some more Petco Park food stuff to put out as well that I'll be doing a lot tomorrow on my day off of the airwaves, so tonight into tomorrow. So be on the lookout, eye emoji, for some of that. So give me a follow at B_SURP on all social media platforms. I see a handful of you, 11 of you that are on the Braden Surprenant Show YouTube page as well. We are broadcasting on 97.3 The Fan, the Braden Surprenant Show page, as well as Facebook and on Twitch. I haven't decided if I want to put this on X or not. I'd have to pay for a subscription for that. I don't know if I want to do that or not. But again, if you want to join the show, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We got a lot going on in the world of sports that we're going to get to on our sports thread in just a little bit. But I do want to give you a little bit of a primer, and we'll see if we have, I might have to push a little bit more of this back to the next hour. But I do want to give you a primer on kind of the trade deadline. And there was a great article written by Dave Schoenfield, kind of giving a preview of this upcoming trade deadline. And there's a couple of things that really, stand out to me on what could potentially be the trade deadline for Major League Baseball. I think with the expanded playoffs, there's more playoffs. There's more teams that are in it than ever at the trade deadline. I think teams are trying to compete and get into the postseason. And right now, with everything laid out, I mean, it's got a lot of symptoms to potentially not be a very exciting or a lot of movement in the trade deadline. Let me explain. So it's on July 31st. Again, it seems like a long way away. It might be shaping up to be the least exciting in years. The usual pool of big-name rentals is very dry. Vlad Guerrero Jr. signed a long-term deal during the season, and most potential free agents that are out there are on playoff contenders. That's including free agents that the Padres have, like a Michael King, like a Dylan Cease. So with not a lot of rentals available, that leaves very few stars that are actually available, possibly forcing teams to get creative on some MLB for MLB trades or move players with team control beyond 2025. Not only that, but the American League playoff picture, again, we're still in the first month of the baseball season, but with nobody really taking charge and everybody in the American League basically being the same team in terms of competitiveness. I mean, they're all relatively roped together. The Tigers and Yankees are tied at the top of the leaderboard at 14-9, followed by the Guardians at 13-9 with the Texas Rangers. Mariners, Red Sox, Angels are all around 500 with the Blue Jays and Astros. A's are 2 games under 500. I mean, it's a very muddy waters in the American League. It's not as cut and dry as the National League. And the National League's got, very top-heavy but very strong league. With all the teams that are competing in the American League and really the National League, and not a lot of rentals, which are usually the players that are moved to the deadline, there might not be a lot of sellers out there, which could make for a very bizarre deadline filled with unusual trades or underwhelming deals. Very much a seller's market, not a buyer's market in this year's trade deadline. Some of the top players that might be able to get moved if things go south for some of these ball clubs, and some of them are still relatively in competition. I mean, Sandy Alcantara of the Miami Marlins, I guess, would be the number one pickup for a lot of teams. Luis Robert Jr. of the White Sox, as the White Sox are only a half game better than the Rockies right now at 5-17. He'll probably get moved. I mean, Nolan Arenado wanted to get moved during the offseason. Is he going to be able to get moved during the trade deadline with the Cardinals being 9-14? If the Astros start to move south, and they just had a good weekend against the Padres going 2-3, are they willing to trade Framber Valdez? Logan Gilbert of the Mariners, if the Mariners can't turn things around. Marcell Ozuna of the Braves, is he a trade piece? But I think Atlanta's going to be right there in the heat of things in a couple of weeks. I mean, they've won 4 straight now. They're now 9-13 on the year as they start to climb their way out of a hole. Do the Blue Jays trade Bo Bichette if they can't sign him to a contract extension? Those are kind of the names that might be available at the trade deadline. I mean, that's a pretty weak trade deadline. There's not a lot out there. I mean, there's a lot of people in the Padres or Padres fans that want to, redo the entire roster at the trade deadline like AJ Preller and company have done in the past. First of all, I don't think you really have a lot to trade unless you want to trade away major league talent before anybody says Xander Bogaerts got a no trade clause and nobody's taking on his contract. But maybe you're going to have to find again on the margins. I think Go Aztecs in the chat on Twitch. Is it worth taking a flyer on Tristan McKenzie after he was DFA'd with some of the work he did with Ruben Niebla in Cleveland? Hey, I don't think that's that bad of an idea. Add some depth in AAA. See if they can turn him back into a starter. I don't think that's that bad of an option. But you look at what else is available out there, there's just not a lot. You look at some of the top contenders on the trade market. I mean, the Chicago Cubs are looking for an ace. There's not a lot of those out there. They might be willing to trade Owen Casey or even a Kevin Alcantara, outfielder prospects in AAA. They do have a strong farm system. Positional depth makes one outfielder expendable as they try to improve their rotation with Justin Steele out. Yankees, they're injury riddled, probably more than the Padres are. Very underwhelming rotation. They're looking for a Sandy Alcantara. Boston Red Sox have a thin rotation. They could be looking for a Sandy Alcantara. Are they willing to part ways with Marcelo Mayer out of Eastlake, who's their elite shortstop prospect? I mean, if you're the Marlins right now, I would imagine you're waiting to the deadline to trade Sandy away, even though you're 10-12. I mean, you might as well continue to play, relatively competitive 500 ball and get as much out of Sandy as possible. And then I'm telling you right now, I mean, the what you're going to have to give up for a guy like Sandy Alcantara is going to be a lot because, again, it's a seller's market. Rangers have an injury-prone rotation. They could be looking in the mix for Sandy Alcantara. New York Mets have flaws in a lot of different places, but they could upgrade the rotation or elsewhere. Phillies need some bullpen help, but inconsistent lineup contributors. They got a set roster, but open to depth upgrades. Are the Tigers willing to add this year compared to last year when they ended up selling Jack Flaherty? Is there another situation like the Tigers last year who made the playoffs and sold at the deadline? They sold Flaherty at the deadline and still made the playoffs. It's going to be an interesting trade deadline nonetheless. I mean, it doesn't have the symptoms to be a very buyer's market. There's not a lot out there. So you look at some of the players that the Padres might be willing to trade. I don't think they're going to trade a DeVries. I don't think they're going to trade a Salas. Outside of that, is there a couple of minor league pieces that are playing well that other organizations might covet? That might be a big question come the trade deadline, but there's not a lot of big pieces out there. It's not like they're going to make a splash. We're going to talk more about the National League West in particular, because every team in the National League West could look for some players, with the exception of maybe the Dodgers. But even the Dodgers have some issues as well, even though they seem to be the most perfect team. But the Padres, the Dodgers, the Giants, and the Diamondbacks, if they all stay relatively competitive near the top of the National League, I mean, you might get yourselves into a division arms race between all the teams in the National League West. I don't know who wins that potentially, but be interesting to see. And we talked about it last week about what you can learn from the 2016 Cubs. You got to go for it every single time you have a chance because you don't know what the future holds for a lot of these players. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We'll talk more Padres baseball in the next hour, but we want to let you know what's going on in the rest of the world of sports with today's Sports Thread with Adam Klug.
You know that group chat, the one that's always blowing up with the biggest sports takes, debates, and breaking news?
You got barbecue back there, and you didn't invite me?
Yeah, we've got that too. Welcome to the Sports Thread, where we break down the top 5 stories in sports, just like you would with your crew.
Oh, no! Disaster! What a bad idea!
No filters, no silence, just real talk.
Here's Adam Klug. Today's Sports Thread.
Number 1.
You got me there on the number 1.
I know I did.
Number 1.
The Milwaukee Bucks dropped Game 1 against the Pacers over the weekend, but help is on the way as Damian Lillard has been cleared to return to action in Game 2 tonight. Lillard hasn't played in a game since March 18th due to a blood clot in his right calf. What kind of impact do you expect from Dame in his return to the court?
I bet you. I think he's going to make a big impact in the game tonight. I think that's going to be a major upgrade for them in this playoff series, and we'll see how it continues. A lot of the NBA games have been really good so far.
Number 2.
We're talking NBA. The Pistons evened up their series at 1-1 with a 6-point road win over the Knicks last night, getting 33 points and 12 rebounds from former number 1 pick Cade Cunningham, while Kawhi Leonard went bananas in the other playoff game last night, scoring 39 points on a ridiculous 15 of 19 shooting in the Clippers' 3-point win over the Nuggets to even up that series at 1. Which of these 4 teams, the Knicks, the Pistons, the Clippers, and the Nuggets, do you feel most confident will advance past this round?
The Knicks, the Pistons, the Clippers, or the Nuggets. I think with the issues that the Nuggets had to end the year with firing their coach and their general manager is going to weigh on them a little bit. I like the way the Clippers are playing right now. Kawhi Leonard's playing out of his mind. 39 points last night. Go with the Los Angeles Clippers, fighting Kawhi Leonard's to advance out of that group.
Number 3.
The NFL draft is just over 48 hours away. We'll have coverage here on 97.3 The Fan. As of right now, every NFL team currently has its own first-round pick. This is the closest to the draft in the common era that no trades involving first-round picks has ever been made. This morning, ESPN's Pete Schrager reported that the Titans plan on holding on to their number 1 pick, and their GM acknowledged that today in his press conference. But both the Browns and Giants are receiving trade calls about the 2nd and 3rd picks, respectively, and neither team is declining the calls. What % chance do you give any team of trading into the top 3 of the draft?
The top 3?
Meaning the 2nd or the 3rd pick.
Right. I honestly think on draft day, there's a lot of panic. And general managers get antsy. I would put it at 65%.
Wow.
65-70%. I think the Titans are going to take Cam Ward, number 1 overall. And I think there's going to be a mad dash, because everybody always has this mad dash for quarterbacks. I don't think the quarterback class is that great. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they decide to do that. And if I'm one of those teams, I'm definitely listening. I like trading down more than I like trading up.
Number 4.
The 49ers started their offseason workout program today, and to the surprise of some, Brock Purdy is in attendance despite not having a new long-term contract worked out yet. George Kittle, who's also seeking a new deal as he enters the final year of his contract, is not in attendance. Toss-up. Which players should the 49ers prioritize in terms of their contract demands? Brock Purdy or George Kittle?
I mean, George Kittle is an aging tight end that does get hurt a lot. I'm not a huge believer in Brock Purdy. I think he's a very serviceable quarterback, but he's not. I don't think he's worth what you would have to pay him in order to potentially keep him. But if I'm picking between the two, I'm picking Brock Purdy. I mean, I could go get a tight end in the draft that's going to cost me way less money, that could probably be a little bit more productive over the course of what this new contract is with George Kittle. I'd rather have youth in especially a position like tight end, where he's got to block, he's got to be in the trenches, and he's got to go out there and pass and catch passes and and be part of an offense. That's a grueling position. I don't necessarily know if I want to do that into an aging George Kittle who's already been injury prone. So if I'm picking between the two, I'm picking Brock Purdy, and I'm trying to make that contract happen. I think I can find solutions at tight end more than I can find solutions at quarterback.
Breaking news: Braden believes Brock Purdy's worth $50 million.
I don't believe it.
Number 5.
This last one for you, Braden. UNC football has gained a lot of attention this offseason with the hiring of Bill Belichick. The Tar Heels just announced they'll open next season in Ireland against your TCU Horned Frogs. You're a season ticket holder, Braden. Will you travel to Ireland to watch your beloved Horned Frogs take on Bill Belichick? Belichick.
Soon tight. I don't know. I've already gotten inundated with emails about it, about the travel packages to Ireland for August 29th, 2026. TCU is giving up a home game to play North Carolina in Ireland. This season on Labor Day, on that Monday, TCU's playing North Carolina at North Carolina Chapel Hill. And on the home return, instead of playing them at Amon G. Carter Stadium in Fort Worth, they're going to be playing in Ireland instead. From the people I've been told, the people I know at TCU, it sounds like they're getting a major payout to go to Ireland to play this game. So it's great for the program. I'm as a season ticket holder, I don't like giving up home games against Power 5 opponents, Power 4 opponents for things like this. But will I travel? I don't know. I bet you I will look into it today. I'm not huge into traveling overseas, which I'll be doing later on in May. I'm kind of dreading it, to be honest with you. I like staying on this continent as much as possible, but it is kind of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to check off like going to Ireland and be able to watch TCU football at the same time. I think it's great for the fans that like to do sports trips. As a season ticket holder, though, I don't like giving up home games. I don't, but we'll see. That's like the 5th or 6th time that TCU's done that, where they have given up a Power 4 home game to play it at a neutral site or play it somewhere else. They did the same thing with Ohio State. They were supposed to do a home and home with Ohio State. They gave up playing the home game and ended up only doing a neutral game at Jerry's World for that. They've done that in the past with LSU. They did it with Oregon State, playing a lot of games at Cowboy Stadium just down the road. I went to the TCU Ohio State game at Jerry's World. And it's just you're signing up for just even more opposing fans because TCU's not very big. They have 10,000 students at that school. And the living alumni base isn't very big. They do have a lot of money though. But anyway, I don't know. I'll probably look into it. I'll see what the travel packages are like. It's a very interesting component. First game of the year too. Kansas State and Iowa State are playing a conference game there to start the season, which is interesting. That will be the first weekend of college football. And there's a lot of good college football news we have coming up that I do want to get to, as well as some NL West potential trade moves for the San Diego Padres and the Diamondbacks and what they could be looking for as an early trade preview coming up. But college football has put out the idea of potentially, and we're going to talk about this later on in the next hour, college football playoff leaders are meeting this week to discuss the format of the playoffs starting in 2026. They have included using TV ratings as metrics for determining playoff seeding. Is that the most asinine thing you've ever heard? That might be the most asinine thing I've ever heard. Could you imagine if that was like the case in any other sport? Hey, the Padres, I know you guys did really well and you actually outdid the Dodgers this year, but, the Dodgers got better TV ratings than you guys did, so we're going to give them the 1 seed, and you guys are going to be a wild card team. That's an apples and oranges comparison just because the professional league has, 30 teams in and everybody's equal. But in the world of college football, I mean, I would be absolutely incensed if I had the best team, but for some reason didn't get great TV ratings, which are also just a gigantic, say it's a scam, but it's the way that they do ratings in this business is so archaic that you can't even tell. You really can't even tell. But to have certain schools who are not as big as the big schools get punished because their TV ratings aren't as high is the most insane thing I've ever heard in college athletics. And of course, the SEC and the Big Ten are coming up with this. I mean, I can't even imagine the backlash they're going to get. And this is why I'm so against playoff committee. This is why I'm so against non-automatic qualifiers. They continue on to handpick who's in the national championship for TV purposes. They're just saying the quiet part out loud now. We'll talk more about that in the 12 o'clock hour. Talk about the Padres a little bit more if you want to join the show. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Take a look at a preview of the trade deadline for NL West teams when we come back. Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego Sports Station, 97.3. 12 o'clock on a Tuesday. We are off tomorrow with Padres baseball. Hopefully the Padres are talking about winning a series tomorrow as they will take on Jack Flaherty and the Detroit Tigers coming up this afternoon. 3:40 start time for the Padres, which gives us a 2:40 EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show with Sam Levitt. He'll be after Gwynn and Chris, who will start up at about 2 o'clock. Get you ready for some Padres baseball. Padres trying to even up the series at one game each. We'll get you a lineup as soon as we see it. Coming up in just a little bit. That should be happening during our show. Talking about going to Disneyland on Sunday. It was a good time. Did not see Donald Duck at all. So couldn't go fight for Rod over there. Dodger Duck. Couldn't do it. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Baseball coverage on 97 through the Fan, presented by T-Mobile. Head to T-Mobile.com and get a great deal on an iPhone 16 Pro. We will have our game show later on in this hour, the Midday Sports Standoff. Got a victory yesterday, but if you take me down to some sports trivia coming up at 12:40, you'll be able to have an opportunity to qualify for a chance to win a trip to Vegas. We'll talk more about that in just a little bit. So we talked about some of the trade deadline, what the trade deadline will look like. And it might be sparse. I mean, obviously a lot will happen in the next couple of months. But you take a look at the National League West in particular. And David Schoenfield laid it out. And you look at the National League West, and he calls it the NL West Battle Royale for the playoffs and what they could potentially do at the trade deadline. He goes, quote, "Let's keep our fingers crossed for the greatest four-team division race we've ever seen." How about that? Greatest four-team division race we have ever seen. If that's the case at the deadline, all of the following teams will be looking to make an addition. Nobody wants to be stuck in that wild card series. That's assuming that the Padres, the Dodgers, the Diamondbacks, and the Giants are all battling for a division championship by July 31st. What percentage do you have? What percentage chance is there that the Padres, the Dodgers, the Giants, and the Diamondbacks are all within a couple of games for the division lead in the NL West come July 31st? I would give that about a 15% chance. I mean, do we honestly think it's that sustainable? Maybe I'm wrong, but do we think all four of those teams, like, I'm not saying the Dodgers are going to run away with everything at this point in time, and the Padres are going to be way out of it, and all these teams are going to be way out of it. But for all four of those teams, could you imagine the excitement in the National League West, how great it would be for the NL West in the grand scheme of Major League Baseball to be the center point of Major League Baseball with the Dodgers, the Giants, the Padres, and the Diamondbacks, where you have a four-team race for a division championship? From a sports perspective, that's fun. From a Padres fan's perspective, that sounds stressful. You could go anywhere between winning the division to being in fourth place. I could see that being the case maybe in the month of May. I can't imagine that being the case into June, and we'll go back to this. We'll talk about this later on. But if you get through July and all four of those teams are in a division race, that would be absurd. That would be fun. Major League Baseball would have a fun time with that. The two traditional teams, the Dodgers and the Giants, the new up-and-coming teams and the Padres and the Diamondbacks, just a four-team battle royale. That sets up for a wild, wild west at the trade deadline. They listed a bunch of trade candidates that everybody has. Now, again, these teams are all in buying situations, so what they have available to trade. David Schoenfield mentioned that the Padres trade candidate, again, the Padres are not going to be trading away DeVries or Salas. I mean, DeVries is going to be up here within the next couple of years and probably going to be playing shortstop. And that's when you're going to see Xander Bogaerts probably move over to first base. The biggest trade candidate the Padres have to offer, according to David Schoenfield, Tyson Neighbors. He was a college closer, and he's a fast riser through the organization. They're off to a rousing start, despite one of the weakest benches in the majors and a weak spot in left field, so they will have clear areas to target at the deadline. Obviously, a left fielder is definitely necessary for the Padres, even with Hayward coming back and Lockridge coming back and Connor Joe and Tirso Ornelas. I mean, they're playoff teams don't have one of those four players playing left field. World Series teams, which is what everybody here is expecting or wants out of the Padres, especially with the start that they have had, none of those four players are starting in left field for a World Series championship team. They're just not. So with that being a clear area, obviously the rotation could probably use another arm. You can never turn down bullpen arms, which are usually cheaper. It's possible that the Padres could trade from their major league bullpen depth at the major league level, but you want to keep as much pitching as possible. But instead, ESPN, David Schoenfield, thinks Tyson Neighbors might be the best option to part ways with. A closer at Kansas State, whom the Padres took in the 4th round of last year's draft, has the potential to move quickly to the major leagues. Might be a good trade piece for the Padres, because you're not trading Salas and you're not trading DeVries. We already mentioned earlier in the show, and if you haven't listened to it, go back on the rewind function or go check out our show in podcast form or on YouTube at either Braden Surprenant at B_SURP or 97 through the fan, SD on YouTube. There's not a lot out there potentially coming up at the deadline, just with not too many rentals being available on teams, because most of the rentals and the good rentals in terms of players that are going to be free agents at the end of the year are on competitive teams right now that are not expected to part ways. But you have that with a mix of a lot of teams in the American League going to be battling for playoff spots. A fit for the Padres is they could potentially deal from their bullpen depth to add an impact starter. Highly possible. I think left field's probably a little bit more of a need for the Padres. But that being said, the Padres, even with a lot of their injuries, they have still been able to have a pretty solid offense out there. And the top of the order, when and fully healthy, has been one of the best offenses in Major League Baseball. The thing that has been a little bit of an Achilles heel is you're not getting, ace-level starts at a Dylan Cease, although they did have a little bit more of a bounce back against the Astros over the weekend. Michael King, is definitely one of the better pitchers in Major League Baseball. And then you look at Nick Pivetta, who he pitches tonight. It'll be good to see a good outing out of Nick Pivetta tonight. But then you look at Kyle Hart. He's not a playoff starter. You look at guys like Manny Vásquez. You don't want him starting a playoff game for the Padres. What you have with Yu Darvish is really up in the air. He's expected to come back hopefully by the end of May, if not beginning of June. He's slowly building his way back up, and you're never going to get a timetable out of the Padres for any of their injuries. But even with Yu Darvish, I mean, you could use another starting pitcher. I just don't know what they're going to be able to give up to go get one. I don't know how many starting pitchers are going to be out there. I guess time will tell. Other teams in the division have other issues. Dodgers have some bench issues. 40-man roster crunch from injured pitchers. Is it time for them to give up on Bobby Miller? They can also trade away Ben Kasparius as well as Justin Robleski. Some trade chips. They can move a current rostered pitcher to make room for that as well. I don't necessarily. I mean, they already have the best team money can buy. But their bench issues are still issues. I mean, they have a lot of players on their team, the Dodgers do, that are fan favorites that probably shouldn't be on the best team money can buy. And we're talking about Austin Barnes and Chris Taylor, Kike Hernandez, Miguel Rojas. I mean, those are not that great of a list of bench players. The Dodgers currently have 47 players on their 40-man roster because of all their injured pitchers. And some of them are out for the year. So the roster won't completely get crunched until the offseason, but when Clayton Kershaw is activated, Dodgers will have to clear a roster spot. If they do improve the bench, and they should, that could mean trading someone from the 40-man roster, such as one of the above pitchers, rather than a low-level prospect. Dodgers could be parting ways with a lot of guys. As we've mentioned before, they have so many players part of their roster. They can't play everybody. Giants are looking for some back-end rotation help. They do need some help at first base and DH. I mean, they have not got a lot of production out of Lamont Wade Jr. so far this year. Diamondbacks, very mediocre rotation currently, and they have the potential to have some slumping bats, although they got a pretty solid ball club. They're likely to target some mid-tier arms unless urgency increases. But, I mean, it's going to be a fun race for the National League West coming up at the trade deadline. I just don't think they're all going to be in contention for a division by the time July 31st rolls around. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. When we come back, we'll continue the Padres conversation. Take a look again at last night, kind of recap what happened last night, what went wrong, and we'll also look into some interesting meetings in college football this week as they address the playoff format. They've already announced the dates and times of the playoff for this season. We'll talk more about that later on, and need a contestant for the midday sports standoff. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Braden Surprenant Show rolls on on 97 through the Fan, San Diego's #1 sports station. I love this comment in the chat from Blue Meanie. Hilarious. You guys are doing a great job, mostly because I agree with most of what you say. That's why. Love it. Joel the Kid, 18. Almost heard on ESPN. Yes, that's because last night, about 1,500 times, I mentioned that the USD San Diego State game, you can listen right here on. When we come back on ESPN Plus and USDToreros.com. In fact, last night, I almost said on 97.3 The Fan. And it's all over the place. It's a lot of work. You get into habits, right? Like at your work, and you're just thinking about different, you're just getting into a rhythm. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, that's right. That's not this place. So I almost said the Braden Surprenant show last night while doing the game. So interesting. It happens. Yes. Almost heard on it. You almost did, because I almost used the tagline of the send out for the USD games on ESPN Plus. College football playoff has announced their new times for games. Does anybody care in the month of April when the bowl games or when the playoff games will be, on what days and what times, when you don't even know if your team is in it? And if your team is expected to be a team that is playing for a national championship, you don't even know which one of these you'd be playing in anyway. During the holidays, there will be one game on New Year's Eve. It will be the Cotton Bowl at 4:30 p.m. Pacific time on New Year's Day, which is a Thursday this year. You will have a 9 a.m. Orange Bowl, which is usually the Peach Bowl, but the Peach Bowl is a semifinal game this year. 9 a.m. Orange Bowl, 1 o'clock Rose Bowl, and a 5 o'clock Sugar Bowl. College football playoff semifinals will be on Thursday, January 8th, and Friday, January 9th. There'll be 4:30 kicks Pacific time. Your national championship is on Monday, January 19th at 4:30. There you go. You guys can all sleep well now, knowing that you know what the dates and times are of the college football playoff. We will talk more about those meetings that are going on in Texas about the college football playoff, in which that they want to use potential TV ratings to determine some seedings, which I think is the most asinine thing I've ever heard in my entire life. But let's talk more about the Padres and the Padres game last night. They will be taking on the Tigers again today, game 2 of the 3-game set. It will be Jack Flaherty coming up for the Detroit Tigers against Nick Pivetta, the San Diego Padres. That game will start at 3:40 p.m. Pacific time with EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show and Sam Levitt at 2:40. Last night's game, and Padres took the loss 6-4. Had a little bit of late life there, but Randy Vásquez really put him into a hole. Overall, I mean, last night you saw Gavin Sheets step up with Luis Arraez sideline. Gavin Sheets has taken the role of first baseman and hit second in the lineup. He looked pretty good and went 2 for 4 with the home run in the recent game, showcasing his adaptability and contributing significantly to the offense. Fernando Tatis Jr. continues to be in stellar form. He just won the National League Player of the Week after hitting 4 home runs and driving in 7 RBIs over 6 games. He leads the National League with 8 home runs and is second in batting average and OPS. And we talked about it earlier with Fernando. We've talked about it a lot with Fernando in terms of his plate discipline, but it's not just him. Manny Machado has been very disciplined at the plate. Both Fernando and Manny have done a great job of laying off that slider away. But we talk about Fernando's plate discipline so much, we kind of ignore Manny's plate discipline because nobody really worries about Manny. We know Manny's going to be hitting when he needs to be hitting at the times of the season. And he's doing really well. I mean, he's hitting over 300 right now in the season. But Machado has improved his plate discipline, increasing his walk rate to 9.8% and averaging 4.05 pitches per plate appearance. That's the highest of his career. This approach has contributed to his 306 batting average and his 379 on base percentage. Again, you're watching the Padres offensively have selfless at-bats, and that's a big reason why they have been very successful. You're getting the best out of Fernando. You're getting the best out of Manny right now. Before Jackson Merrill got hurt and Jake Cronenworth, they were racking up pitch counts. I mean, you have to earn it. I mean, this is putting pressure on the defense. We've heard Jackson Merrill. We heard that quote from Jackson Merrill. We apply pressure. We don't feel it. Even last night, in a Padres 6-4 loss, they continued to apply pressure and make pitchers have to deliver pressure pitches. You look at the first inning, they loaded the bases. Fernando gets on. You look at the sequence of the first inning. And I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, which is dumb. I could probably just look it up on the box score here. But you look at top of the first inning. Fernando singled to get things started. Gavin Sheets then flew out to center for the first out. Machado worked a walk that puts runners on first and second. Bogaerts hits a single, and you have the bases loaded with one out. You are making the starting pitcher have to have pressure pitches early in the contest. And when you put the ball in play, good things happen, and that's what the Padres do at a very high rate. Now, Tirso Ornelas didn't get a base hit, but he put the ball in play, ground out into a force out. He had to hustle down the line to not have it be an inning double play. And Fernando able to score from third base, advanced Manny to third. Bogaerts was out at second, and you're still continuing to apply pressure in the first inning. Oscar Gonzalez ends up grounding out, but he got a run. Now off defensively, and Randy Vásquez being a little wild, gives up 2 runs in the bottom half of the first inning, but then again, you apply a pressure in the second inning. Iglesias gets hit by a pitch. Tyler Wade works a walk. Maldonado can't get the bunt down, but again, you got runners on. You're making pressure pitches, and you get a pass ball out of Thomas Nido that moves Iglesias to third and Tyler Wade to second. Ball in play, Fernando Tatis Jr. on a ground out, scores Jose Iglesias, and now you're even up at 2. But again, you're applying pressure to the opposition, and that wears teams down. It continually wears teams down. Padres only had a couple of 1-2-3 innings. You get to the top of the 5th. Fernando might struck out early in the inning. Gavin Sheets hits a home run. Again, chipping away at it, applying pressure, but it wasn't just Gavin Sheets' home run. With one out, you got a single out of Manny. Bogaerts walked. They have to go to a pitching change. Connor Joe grounds into a force out, but again, putting the ball in play, applying pressure, making the opposition have to make plays. They do. It's an elite team. I mean, you're talking about elite defenders in Major League Baseball. Oscar Gonzalez singles. It's now 6-4. You try to get a little aggressive there. When the ball gets loose in the infield, Joe advances to third base. Oscar Gonzalez, he was a little bit reckless in trying to get to second. Ends up getting thrown out. But again, you're applying pressure. You're making the other team have to make plays. You're making them have to play solid defense. This wears teams down over a course of a series. They've been doing that. Even in every loss that the Padres have had, they have applied pressure throughout the entire game. To go back to Manny, he talked about it in early March. Obviously, my walk rate went down last year. I think I was swinging a little bit more. And as Kevin Acee put in his daily newsletter, en route to a 7% walk rate that is his lowest since 2015, he took pitches at a lower rate than any of his previous 12 big league seasons and swung at the first pitch of a plate appearance more often than all but 2 previous seasons. Part of that, he said, was that he sometimes wanted to try to get a hit early to cut down on his number of swings he had to take because of his surgically repaired elbow hurt when he swung. I mean, again, these guys, with everybody being fully healthy, you're seeing the Padres at their full potential at the beginning part of the season. Now, a lot of them are back on the injured list, but when they come back, that's why you're getting this production early in the season. With the elbow now healthy, Machado has walked 4 times in 41 plate appearances. That includes his 9-pitch walk in the first inning last night, 12-pitch walk on Sunday, and a 9-pitch walk last Monday. In the middle of those was a home run on the 9th pitch of an at-bat. He's grinding out at-bats, and he's making pitchers make pressure pitches. It's great to see what the Padres are doing offensively. Again, this is a this is an organizational change because it's not just Fernando, it's Manny, it's the rest of the lineup for the Padres. That's why even with the injuries, they're going to continue to apply pressure offensively. They just got to weather the storm the next couple of weeks. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let me know what you think about the San Diego Padres. When we come back, TV ratings going to determine the playoffs. We'll talk about that. Plus, we got the Padres lineup for you against Detroit. Coming up next on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. This hour 97.3 The Fan is brought to you by Frozen Ropes San Diego. Hey, parents, here's a message from Coach Kurt. With Frozen Ropes, is your child 6 to 12 years old? Our baseball summer league is the perfect fit for your player starting June 16th through August 17th. Summer league includes 8 practices, 8 games. Register by April 30th and save $50. Go to SanDiegoFrozenRopes.com. If you want to try to win a trip to Vegas or be qualified, really, to be qualified to win a trip to Vegas by taking me down in sports trivia, give us a call, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973, and you will qualify for a chance to win our grand prize, 2 tickets to either Disturbed, Ghost, or Pantera in Las Vegas, plus a 2-night stay at the MGM Grand in Sin City and a $150 gift card. Get tickets for all 3 shows now at Ticketmaster.com. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Take me down in some sports trivia. You will be qualified to win a trip to Vegas. It's a good time. Always a good time. Talk a little bit about the Padres lineup today. This looks like a lineup that is getting ready to play the A's at Hohokam Stadium on a Tuesday in March. Again, it's not the Padres' fault. This is not like a Mike Schilt, what are you doing with this lineup? I mean, this is what they got. With all the injuries that they have accumulated over the course of the last week and a half, this is the lineup that you got against Jack Flaherty. The revenge against Jack Flaherty today. This is what you're rolling out there. Again, they have no other options. This is the best that they have based on all the injuries. But it looks like a spring training lineup. Fernando Tatis Jr. batting leadoff, playing right field. Gavin Sheets in the 2-hole, playing first base. I like what he did yesterday, batting second. Again, you're getting to see some depth, get some work in. It's a blessing in disguise. Manny Machado off his legs today. He's going to be the designated hitter at in the 3 spot. So not playing in the infield. Xander Bogaerts in the cleanup spot, playing shortstop. I don't know. I mean, I guess with everybody else being banged up, you have to have Xander in the 4 spot. But I would imagine when the roster gets fully healthy, he will not be batting cleanup for the Padres. Oscar Gonzalez, I think he's done a great job for the Padres. He's over 300. He's hitting over 300 right now. He's hitting 300. He gets a start in left field. He will bat 5th. Jose Iglesias at third base today for Manny Machado. Again, Machado is the DH, but Iglesias will bat 6th for the Padres and play 3rd. Elias Diaz is the catcher for Nick Pivetta. He bats 7th. It's the highest in the order he has been so far this year. Tyler Wade roams center field again. He will bat 8th. And I was on Tyler Wade for his first night at the Dish. Didn't look very good, but he's worked some walks. He's done the best he can to try to flip the lineup over. And that's what his job is. He's gotten pressed into action. He's not an everyday starter, but he's actually done a pretty good job for the Padres in trying to flip the lineup back to Fernando. He bats 8th tonight. Mason McCoy, who was just pulled up from AAA El Paso because of Arraez going on the 7-day injured list, he will start tonight at second base and bat 9th for the San Diego Padres. Fernando Tatis Jr., Gavin Sheets, Manny Machado, Xander Bogaerts, Oscar Gonzalez, Jose Iglesias, Elias Diaz, Tyler Wade, Mason McCoy for the starting pitcher of Nick Pivetta. That is the revenge tour against Jack Flaherty today. We'll see what the lineup can put together. I want to transition into some college football. We had some news today. Again, they announced the playoff times for the college football playoff, the dates and times. Jake Waters in the chat said it was a big deal for them at Reddit. Sure, you're going to forget about 15 times during the season. Have to continue to look it up. But here's what's going on this week on the playoff format as the college football playoff leaders are meeting in Texas to discuss the format of the playoffs starting in 2026. While no major decisions are expected immediately, there's growing urgency to finalize changes by December 1st. The 2025 season will still use the 12-team format, but tweaks to seeding may occur. Key topics being discussed this week: future formats. Options include sticking with the 12-team model or expanding to 14 teams with automatic bids for major conferences: Big Ten, SEC, ACC, Big 12, Group of 5, and at least one at large, which would be Notre Dame. Some commissioners are pushing for merit-based automatic bids instead of pre-allocated ones, in which that they want to even include, it's been discussed as TV ratings. I saw this report last night. I thought it was insane. Awful Announcing regurgitated the report from Heather Dinich of ESPN. And this is again coming from the reports this week about the college football playoff and some talking points. Conference commissioners have been at this since the second round of the first ever 12-team college football playoff that they got to redo the seating. Action Network's Brett McMurphy reported at the time that conference commissioners would have in-depth discussion regarding the structure of the 12-team format, particularly when it comes to seeding. Again, this is after one season. As currently constructed, the top 4 seeds in the college football playoff, each of which receives a first-round bye, are required to be conference champions, creating a conundrum in which some of the format's lesser teams can benefit from one of its biggest advantages. The SEC and the Big Ten wanted to address this. In February, ESPN's Heather Dinich reported that SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey and Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti want to see a, quote, straight seeding for the College Football Playoff Committee, ranking while guaranteeing spots for 5 champions. Paul Feinbaum thought that was completely wrong, bemoaning the possibility that the 2 power conferences would ensure they'd get more automatic qualifiers than other conferences. Shouldn't come as a surprise that the 2 biggest conferences in the sport would push that. But what did come as a surprise is a nugget of criteria that Dinich dropped earlier this week as she heads to Dallas to cover the annual spring meetings. Quote from her article. One possibility, which could be viewed as a compromise, is having conferences earn automatic bids through their play each season, a model in which each Power 4 league can guarantee spots through a combination of its team's overall records and maybe even TV ratings, according to a source, could be presented. The highest ranked conferences would earn the most automatic bids. What a joke. What a joke. It's not individual seeding that would be the determining factor with the TV ratings. What would be is at the end of the year, they would come up with these metrics that would determine which conference is better based on what they do in their overall records and how many people tune into their games. And so the SEC getting the most publicity and the best game times through ESPN would just naturally have the highest TV ratings for every single contest. And the fact that none of them play anybody worth a damn in their non-conference would rack up their wins and continue to just have their own little SEC corner of the world, would sit there and collect all the best automatic, will collect the most automatic qualifiers every year just based on default. They're just making the rules to try to get as many SEC and Big Ten teams in the playoff as possible while determining it as being fair and earning it on the field. Who's buying this S? This is such S. It's terrible. TV ratings. I mean, the Aztecs could have potentially the best team ever assembled. Let's just say they find a billionaire alumni that just wrote them a check for $500 million. They bought the best team in college football. And they could have this great year, but they're going to get punished because nobody watches their games because they're on CBS Sports Network. Give me a break. TV ratings, which, by the way, are already just an archaic thing. Because based on invasion of privacy rules, you can't when you tune on your TV, unless you're part of the Nielsen party, you can't contribute to TV ratings anyway. I mean, you go look up how TV and radio ratings are put together. I learned about it in college. And when I learned about it in college, it blew my mind about how they determine ratings for things in TV and radio. That's why a lot of people like TV execs and radio execs don't like live and die on their ratings. You can't live and die on ratings. Go look up how they determine ratings. You just be like, your mind will be blown. And when I explain it to people, again, as a member of Nielsen came and talked to my class at TCU, I was like, are you kidding me? This is how we determine like how many people watch this? And that's going to determine who gets an automatic qualifier for the college football playoff. They're just saying the quiet part out loud. Why even have the season? Just make it an invitational with the SEC and the Big Ten. They're looking at more things, but that was the biggest one that just like caught an eye. They're looking at the seeding debate. Proposed change would seed teams strictly by ranking them rather than automatically giving them top seeds of conference champions. This could impact financial payouts tied to seeding. Again, it's all about the money. They can finagle it so they can get the most money. Selection committee, no immediate changes, but there's interest in modernizing the process by possibly incorporating more data-driven metrics. How about you get rid of humans from determining who makes the playoff in general? But we're not trying to find a champion. We're trying to find what's the most entertaining for our dollars that fund this entire thing. Final decisions are expected mid-June with a key meeting set in Asheville, North Carolina. Leaders aim to avoid last-minute decisions once the season starts. TV ratings. Determining how many automatic qualifiers your conference gets. Hilarious. Got some contestants on hold. See if they can take me down in sports trivia. It's time for a midday sports standoff.
Welcome to Midday Sports Standoff on the Braden Surprenant Show.
I can't believe what I'm seeing right now.
The ultimate head-to-head battle where sports knowledge and quick thinking collide.
It's no good. Are you kidding me?
Contestants will go toe-to-toe with Braden in a sports trivia deal where every correct answer brings them closer to victory.
Down the sideline! Wow! Unbelievable!
But 3 strikes and it's game over.
This is not Detroit, man. This is the Super Bowl.
Can you outsmart Braden? The Midday Sports Standoff starts now.
All right, we got 3 contestants. Today's contestant is going to be Todd in San Diego. Todd, what's going on, man?
Hey, Braden. How you doing?
I'm doing well. All right, so here's how it works. Adam's got a trivia question for us. It has multiple answers. We're going to go back and forth trying to find what those answers are. For each one you get correct, you get a point. Each one I get correct, I will get a point. And we'll go back and forth until the list has been completed. Now, that being said, if the list has multiple of the same answer, if you get that answer correct, you will get multiple points to add to your lead. If for any reason you do not know or get the answer wrong, don't guess in the allotment of time, you will get a strike, 3 strikes, and you will automatically lose the contest. That's for either you or myself. Whoever's got the most points at the end of this will win. If we tie, you win. We like giving away prizes on the Braden Surprenant Show. Does that all make sense?
Yep.
All right, Todd.
Yep.
We'll see what Adam's got in store for us today.
In case you haven't heard, guys, the NFL draft is on Thursday.
I've heard.
You guys know I'm kind of obsessed.
I'm obsessed. I like the draft, too. I've already had a buddy of mine go, like, I can't believe you're talking about college football when you could be doing a mock draft right now on air.
You want to do that next hour? I kid.
Aha. We'll do it for the whole hour.
Do that on my own time.
Anyway.
Boise State running back Ashton Genty is the subject of numerous trade rumors and could go inside the top 5, which almost never happens with running backs. There will likely be at least 2 and perhaps 3 running backs that go in the first round this year, as the position seems to be going through a renaissance. I went through every draft since 2015 and made a list of every first-round running back since then. Name me any running back drafted in the first round of the NFL draft since 2015. There are 14 correct answers. Obviously, no duplicates this time around.
Since 2015?
Since 2015. Todd gets to go first.
Okay, Todd. Go ahead.
Well, since I'm a Chargers fan, Melvin Gordon, I think.
Melvin Gordon is correct.
What year was that?
That was 2015. So that was just testing the limits of our timeline.
Well, since we have Todd, I'm going to go with Todd Gurley.
Also from the 2015 draft.
Okay. Obviously, no repeat answers on this.
No repeats. 14
deal.
total answers, 12 left. You're up, Todd.
Saquon Barkley?
2018.
I'm going to go with Zeke, Cowboys first-round pick out of Ohio State.
Uh,
2-2. No strikes for either of you.
Okay. Nick Chubb, maybe?
Nick Chubb was a second-round pick. Where did he play in college? I don't remember.
Georgia.
That's right. I did know that.
He played against he was at that bowl game I was at in the Liberty
Todd
Bowl.
Gurley, Georgia Bulldog.
Another Georgia Bulldog.
There is one other Georgia Bulldog on this list as well.
There is.
Hint, hint.
This is not a Georgia Bulldog, but I'm going to go with LSU Tiger Leonard Fournette.
2017, Braden takes the lead 3-2, and Braden has no strikes. Todd has 1.
Okay. What was the guy from Jacksonville? And I can't remember the name. Jacksonville running back. I'm pretty sure he was drafted.
Gonna need a name,
never
but
mind.
you're on the right track.
The guy from no. Okay, the line. Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs. For sure.
Jahmyr Gibbs, 2023.
All right. I'm going to go with Stanford Cardinal, Christian McCaffrey.
Only 1 strike so far. You guys are doing well. Braden, you're up 4-3. Todd, you're up.
Can't think. I know Adrian Peterson was earlier. I can't think of who else back in the first round. Pittsburgh. What is his name? The guy that Najee Harris.
You said you were a Chargers fan, right?
Yeah, that's right. We got
Najee Harris, 2021. You're up, Braden. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 answers left. It's tied 4-4.
I'm going to go with Tennessee Volunteer Alvin Kamara.
Not
a first round
Kamara
pick?
was a 3rd-round pick, if I'm not mistaken.
all right. The Travis Etienne was the Jacksonville guy.
Travis Etienne, 2021. You're back on top there, Todd.
San Diego State Aztec Rashad Penny. End of the first round.
2018, 5-5. You each have a strike. 4 correct answers left. Playing the midday sports standoff here on the Braden Surprenant.
Yeah, I got to
97.3
reset
the fan.
the way we're at here.
Who was the guy that Chiefs drafted that got injured, didn't play much? Edwards-Helaire, first round?
Boy,
Yes,
it's you,
Clyde
Edwards-Helaire.
All right.
There's 3 left.
I'm
Need
gonna-
this, Braden.
I'm going to go with Iowa State running back Breece Hall.
Breece Hall was a second
Round pick.
It's all the people in the chat. You're up 6-5. You've also got 1 fewer strike than Braden. Be a big one here if you can get this one, Todd.
Okay. The guy from Tampa, Ronald Jones?
Ronald Jones, USC Trojan, believe 3rd-round pick.
Yeah. No.
2 strikes. Braden, you got 2 as well. If you miss this,
Well,
you're out.
You mentioned the Georgia Bulldog. He was on the team that we played against in the Liberty Bowl with Chubb. His name is Sony Michel.
End of the first round to the Patriots in 2018. It's tied 6-6. But, Todd, you are now on the clock. 2 strikes. You are out if you miss this one. There's 2 correct answers left.
What's cool? So I feel like Alabama running back was drafted.
There is 1 Alabama running back left on this list.
What do we got?
There is? It's what is it? Josh Jacobs. Has to be.
Josh Jacobs. By the way, that's basically for the win. There's only 1 answer left. If you get it
That's
right,
a
Brady,
tie.
you're tied.
Who didn't we name? Hang on. trying to
The
think.
other one is near and dear to my heart.
Oh,
Braden.
it's Bijan Robinson.
And by near and dear to my heart, I mean
8th pick.
I wish we wouldn't have drafted him, but he's awesome.
Was he the last first-round pick to be drafted?
Jahmyr Gibbs went 4 picks after him, same draft. So technically,
So
Gibbs.
2023. So no first-round running backs last year.
That's correct.
Right? That is correct.
No.
We got all of them. All right.
Hold tight there, Todd. We'll get your info during the break.
Appreciate that. It was a fun game. Close neck and neck. When we come back, we got an NCAA overhaul for the pay-for-play era, which nears with landmark rule changes. There's a lot of rule changes coming to college athletics that we'll talk about. Plus, get you a preview of the Padres and Tigers game coming up later on this afternoon. We do have the lineup. We'll re-give that out. Braden Surprenant Show rolls on. San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
shake. Them girls.
I just got asked a question. It's pretty funny in a group text. And these guys are listening, so we'll see. They asked me a question. They go, would you rather face Kyle Manzardo or Luis Arraez coming up to bat? Does anybody in the chat know who Kyle Manzardo is, by the way, in the group, in the YouTube chat? You know who Kyle Manzardo is? Adam, you know who Kyle Manzardo is?
I do.
Who's Kyle Manzardo?
He's a DH for the Cleveland Guardians, was traded over from the Tampa Bay Rays, I believe.
Yes.
A trade for Aaron Savale, if I'm not mistaken.
Where did he go to school?
Oh, I would have to imagine somewhere in San Diego.
No, Washington State. He's a Coug.
Actually, I did know that. I thought you were talking about high school.
No,
I'm a sicko, by the way.
He's a Coeur d'Alene. He's a Coeur d'Alene kid. Coeur d'Alene kid. So he went to Washington State. So one of my friends, he was a manager for the Cougs baseball program during this time. He's a big Kyle Manzardo fan, and he had to point out, and I think you might agree with this. You're an analytics guy. Manzardo's hitting .217 with 7 home runs.
I believe he's homered in 3 straight games.
Yes, so it's the whole situation of like batting average versus home runs, where home runs are worth more than singles. So that's why batting average is not as important as OPS. OPS 909, batting average 217. Still got to be able to hit the ball and play. But when he does hit the ball and play, he puts it over the fence. That's the big argument there. So manager friend argues that OPS is one of the most important stats to pay attention to. I don't necessarily disagree with that. My friend that ended up playing college baseball, who is a pitcher in college baseball for a premier program in UC Irvine that actually went to the College World Series while he was there, argues you got to be able to hit the ball. You got to have the high average, though. You got to be able to hit the ball. I don't really care what he does when he hits it. If he's not hitting it very often, does it really matter what he does with it when he hits?
Well,
and so he brought up the hypothetical. If you're a pitcher, would you rather face Kyle Manzardo, who is not going to hit for a high average, but when he hits it, it goes very far and over the fence? Or would you rather face Luis Arraez, who's probably, and now this year's a little different because he's got a couple of home runs. Luis Arraez, who's not getting a lot of home runs, but he's more likely to hit the ball. Interesting topic of discussion. Would you rather have Luis Arraez in your lineup or Kyle Manzardo?
Well, obviously, there's a lot of people who don't understand all the analytics and why this is a discussion, but batting average is binary. It's only hit yes or hit no. It weighs all hits equally, right? A home run is worth the same amount as a single when you talk about batting average. You either got to hit or you didn't. Not. It also doesn't take into account plate discipline. If you get a walk and get on base, that doesn't factor into batting average. That's why on base percentage is obviously also more important in my mind than batting average. And you combined slugging percentage, which weighs each type of hit differently. A home run is more valuable than a single. You combine that with your on base percentage, which takes into account your plate discipline, and you get OPS.
I think the situation's different. Would I rather face Luis Arraez or Kyle Manzardo? Would I rather face Luis Arraez?
Also, it depends on the situation.
That's what I'm saying. If the bases are empty, I'd rather face Luis Arraez. He gets a hit. He's on first. All right, so what? Bases empty, I'd rather face Luis Arraez. Because Kyle Manzardo, he might run into one, and it's 1-0. If the bases are loaded, I'd probably rather face Kyle Manzardo than I would rather face Luis Arraez, because Luis Arraez has a higher percentage chance of getting a hit. Batting average just tells you what percentage chance you have of getting a hit. If you hit 217, which is what Kyle Manzardo does, he hits 217, he gets a hit in his at-bats 21% of the time. He gets a base hit 21% of the time. But when he does get a base hit, it's usually for more damage. That implies the OPS, right? With the on-base percentage mixed in with getting on base. And his plate appearances, they're a little bit more valuable when he does get a hit. It's the same thing with like Joey Gallo, right? Joey Gallo never hit for a high average, but he hit the ball over the fence when he did it. But if he's only getting a hit 15% of the time, do you want the consistency or do you want the pop when it happens? Are you willing to watch him through? It's the same thing as like Kyle Schwarber. Kyle Schwarber doesn't hit for a high average, but when he hits it, he does a lot of damage. I think it's a trick question. I would rather, based on the situation, I would change my opinion on that. Bases empty, I'd rather face Luis Arraez. The argument against that is Luis Arraez has better chances of starting a big inning. Manzardo will more than likely get himself out. Interesting topic of this conversation, in which one of my friends immediately said, "You're stuck in 1994, man." So that came about while we were during a break. They're continuing to talk about it. They wanted my take. Instead of texting it out, I might as well just throw it out there on the air.
Can't make a habit of responding to all text messages on the air, though.
It's too hard. It's too hard. It's very difficult. Most of the time,
Mom texts you, "Hey, Braden, what do you want for dinner?" Just respond on the air.
Yeah, exactly. I'd like to have this. What are you doing later this afternoon? Oh, I'll just let everybody know about it. But no, can't do that. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Now we got people in the YouTube chat debating about it. See, look, there you go. NFL drafts coming up on Thursday. We will have draft coverage for you on Thursday. Starting at 5 o'clock, we will re-air the Padres Roundtable at 4 o'clock on Thursday. So Thursday will be a fun show. I'm off tomorrow because we have Padres baseball at 10:10 in the morning. Equal Water SoCal Padres pregame show tomorrow at 9:10. So some early morning Padres baseball for you on a Wednesday. Coming up next is Gwen and Chris starting at 2 o'clock. They'll only have about a 40-minute show before they pass it over to Sam Levitt and Equal Water SoCal Padres pregame show, leading into Padres baseball at 3:40. We'll have more of a breakdown of this afternoon's game between Nick Pivetta and Jack Flaherty in just a little bit. But I do want to mention some things that are happening in college athletics, in which they have the House settlement, which everybody's opting into, and they're trying to regulate some of the NIL and everything like that. And it's very interesting to see this timeline play out as they're trying to eliminate, and it sounds like they're going to remove, or at least they're proposing to remove 153 longstanding rules from its handbook. The NCAA Division I Board of Directors has proposed removing 153 longstanding rules from its handbook, paving the way for schools to directly pay athletes, a major shift toward a new model of college athletics that hinges on the approval of the House antitrust settlement. Key points out of this: direct payments to athletes. Schools could provide up to $20.5 million annually in financial benefits per school, including NIL, name, image, and likeness compensation. Not all schools will join the new model. For example, the Ivy League plans to opt out and continue their current amateurism rules. So if you go to an Ivy League, you are not eligible to make NIL. It's only optional participation. Not every school has to do it. The Ivy League has already said, we're not doing this. New NIL regulations: players must disclose NIL deals worth $600 or more. Third-party NIL deals will be reviewed for fairness by a new independent clearinghouse. A tech platform will help schools and athletes track payments and agreements. So they're going to put in an NIL regulation that, again, this needs to be settled in court. But the idea is that all third-party NIL deals, so ones that don't involve the school, like you have currently in college athletics, will be reviewed for fairness by a new independent clearinghouse. So Tennessee can't get the boosters to pay Nico $2.5 million to just hand out autographs every once in a while, which apparently he didn't even want to do to begin with. There was a lot of pushback on all of the NIL obligations that Nico had to do, aside from his first year of just holding a clipboard and collecting a $2.5 million check. What a sick gig that is. So it have to be regulated. If you're going to pay a kid to run a camp for the youth, you can't pay him $5 million to run the one camp just to say that, that's what the going rate is. So there'll be a third party that will determine whether or not these are fair negotiations for both the company and the student athlete. They're going to enforce this by using a new oversight group run by the conferences involved in the settlement. Will monitor adherence to NIL rules and benefit caps, roster and scholarship changes. This is the big deal that they're agreeing on this week, in which they're going to eliminate roster spots. Sports-specific roster limits are introduced. Before it was just scholarship limits. Now it's roster limits. There was a lot of players that were non-scholarship or walk-ons on a lot of different teams. There was a lot of splitting of scholarships. Now it's going to be all full scholarships, but they're going to have roster limits. So all declared athletes can receive full scholarships, expected to double scholarships in women's sports. Sport-specific roster limits will be introduced. Athlete eligibility requirements. This is where things get interesting as well. Athletes must remain full-time students, must meet progress toward degree standards, and benefits apply only within their 5-year eligibility window. So that's all NIL benefits. They have to remain full-time students, academically eligible, and must meet progress toward degree standards, obviously being eligible, in order to receive the benefits of NIL and these revenue sharing. If approved, changes could take effect by July 1st, with schools needing to opt in by June 15th for the 2025 academic year. Obviously marking a significant restructuring of college athletics, redefining amateurism, and introducing a more professionalized model for top-level college athletes. I'm sure a lot of these things will end up in more lawsuits. You've already starting to see eligibility requirements and everything like that. And what this is going to eventually lead to, and what has already been discussed by the judge that is holding this case in Northern California in the House settlement, is about, if this continues to progress, again, we're going to talk, women's sports want, this has nothing to do with Title IX, has been introduced by this House settlement. So Title IX, I'm sure, will get a lawsuit for it, because you don't have to pay with your $20.5 million you get to spend with the athletes amongst all the athletes in your department. You don't have to pay the men and women equally in this new deal. That's going to probably have a lawsuit involved. Eligibility requirements. There's different things that would have to be discussed in a collective bargaining agreement in order for a lot of these rules to apply in the future. That's why Major League Baseball and the NFL and the NBA and all the players' unions, they abide by some of the rules on what the sport is, like salary caps and everything like that, because they had a collective bargaining agreement and negotiated with the powers that be. In college athletics, you don't have that. So you can't put in all these roster changes and rules for the betterment of the sport without the consent of all the athletes involved. They have to sign to it. Are they going to form a union? Could you imagine some of these college athletes in a union trying to pay union fees to try to get all of these, rules in place to make sure they're fairly compensated? This is a mess. This is going to have a lot of lawsuits involved, but at least they're trying to regulate some of the craziness that is the wild, wild west of college athletics right now. I don't know how this is going to affect a lot of things. I think it's going to harness a lot and really help some of the small schools out. But right now, again, there's no way a lot of this stands in court. Be ready for more lawsuits. Eventually, I think it's just going to come to a collective bargaining agreement, or they're going to pull football and basketball away and let all the other sports do what the Ivy League is doing. This is crazy. It's continuing to be crazy. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Try to continue our conversation on that. Want to dive more into the Padre game today. Got the lineup. We'll reintroduce that when we come back. Plus, get you a preview of tonight's game as we roll on to the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. if we had to flip it for a promo. So we'll get that to you in a second for people in the YouTube chat. Team first mentality. Again, a lot of distraction with the Braves. That happens when you get off to a rough start, but they've won 4 in a row now. We'll play St. Louis again tonight. It's a fun slate of games tonight in Major League Baseball that will start with the early slate of games at 3:10. Yankees and Guardians from Cleveland. Tanner Bybee pitching for the Guardians. The next games up are the Reds at the Marlins, the Padres at the Tigers. Nick Martinez pitching for the Reds. 0-3 of the 6 ERA so far this year. He was listed as potentially a trade piece at the deadline. I wouldn't mind seeing him back in a Padres uniform. Now that 0-3 and 6 ERA, but it's still early in the season. Orioles and Nationals, 3:45. Mariners and Red Sox, 3:45. Phillies and Mets. Game 2 should be a fun contest in New York. That's a 4:10 start. Cardinals and Braves at 4:15. 4:40. It is the Rockies and the Royals coming up at 4:40. Dodgers and Cubs. A fun game. Dustin May versus Shota Imanaga. See if the Cubs can beat up on the division, the National League West for us again. White Sox at the Twins, Blue Jays at the Astros, Pirates at the Halos, Rays at the Diamondbacks, Brewers at the Giants, and the Rangers at the A's. We'll talk more about tonight's matchup in just a little bit, but I do want to get to the starting lineup again for the San Diego Padres as they go against Jack Flaherty. Jack Flaherty with all the BS last year. Ken Rosenthal writing the article. I mean, that was just such. I still look at it. I look at the Dodgers in such a different light now because of that entire situation. And here's the deal. I try not to talk a lot about the Dodgers organization, but as somebody now that works in the media, I mean, I have to view things from a neutral perspective as much as possible. And so I do have to give organizations the benefit of the doubt on certain things. They can't hold grudges and can't be super fan. That's just that you can't do that in this industry in the position that I have. I mean, some people decide that they want to do that, and that's fine. It's their prerogative. But, you know, based on what I've learned and was trained in coming up, that's not I'm a fair guy and see the different perspectives. And so the Dodgers organization for a long time had been a very classy organization. They had, in the way that they did a lot of different things. They've always been one of those organizations that did things the right way in Major League Baseball. But what happened last year in the playoffs was such a low mark for them. And everything that they have done in the since then, and the way that they conduct themselves now is honestly embarrassing. And that started with this Jack Flaherty incident last year with Manny Machado and the sinister sling. And Jack Flaherty popping off in the dugout and all that other stuff. Now, Flaherty, he doesn't have very good numbers against the Padres in general. He's at over 4 ERA. So hopefully the Padres can tag him a little bit. And I hope there's some built-up stuff from last year's playoffs. Maybe see some fireworks tonight. But there's only 3 players in the lineup that were part of the Padres playoffs last year going against Flaherty. It's Tatis, it's Machado, it's Bogaerts. That's it. I guess Elias Diaz was on the roster, but he didn't play a whole lot in the postseason. Tyler Wade on the roster, didn't play in the postseason. But that first 1, 2, 3, Tatis, Sheets, and Machado against Flaherty is going to be interesting. I can't wait for that Flaherty-Machado matchup tonight. Flaherty 1-1 with a 2.53 ERA, has 25 strikeouts. Nick Pivetta 3-1 with a 1.57 ERA, 24 strikeouts on the year. As a lot of people in the YouTube chat have already stated, I want to see Manny hit a nuke or go deep off Flaherty. I want to see that too early on in the first inning. I mean, Tatis has been getting on base at a high rate. I'd take a leadoff home run for Fernando. I think this means a lot to the fans, obviously. I don't know how much they got a chip on their shoulder about this game on a Tuesday in April, but interesting to see them, against Flaherty. Today's lineup, again, not really close to a playoff lineup. This looks like a lineup that you're going to see in Tuesday, Wednesday of a Cactus League game at Hohokam Field against the A's. Tatis batting leadoff, playing right field. Gavin Sheets playing first base, batting second. Like to see how he builds off of last night. Manny Machado in the 3 spot. He's the designated hitter. Xander Bogaerts bats cleanup, playing shortstop. Why don't you have Xander bat second and Sheets bat cleanup? I guess the righty-lefty matchup? I don't know. The righty-lefty matchup to me is just, I feel like it's kind of overrated in baseball. I understand from a perspective of bringing a lefty in with a 3-batter minimum late in the game, and you got 3 lefties in a row. You could bring in the left-hander and just have him, face the 3 lefties in a row. If it's not staggered, whatever. I just think the guys can hit. You see the numbers and stuff. I mean, Sheets looked pretty good against the left-hander the other day against Framber Valdez and company. But I don't know why you wouldn't have Xander bat second, at least right now. He actually has done well batting second. As Jesus mentioned, yes, I know he doesn't like batting second, but there's a lot of players that don't like doing a lot of things. And right now, with the way the clubhouse is, I don't think he really is in a position to argue about that. They're already playing shortstop. We moved back to shortstop. Tatis, Sheets, Machado, Bogaerts. Followed by Oscar Gonzalez getting the start in left field. Jose Iglesias playing third base. Elias Diaz bats 7th. He catches. Tyler Wade in center field will bat 8th. And Mason McCoy batting 9th. And playing second base. Out of the players to have faced Flaherty, Bogaerts has 3 at-bats against him. He's got an RBI. He's hitting .333. It's 1 for 3 with an .833 OPS. Elias Diaz is 0 for 4 against Flaherty. Yuli Gurriel, who's not in the starting lineup, has seen him twice. He's batting 1,000. He's 2 for 2 with a 2,500 OPS. Jose Iglesias is 0 for 5 in his career against Flaherty. Manny Machado has 8 at-bats. He's hitting .250 with 2 RBIs and 1,000 OPS. Martin Maldonado's faced him twice, hasn't got a hit. Gavin Sheets is 1 for 3 against Flaherty, hitting .333 with a 666 OPS. And Fernando has a home run. He's the only Padre in the order that has a home run against Flaherty. In 6 at-bats, he's hitting .667 with a 2214 OPS. We'll talk more about tonight's game. Padres and Tigers coming up at 3:40. We'll get you a full preview when we return on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Final segment of the Braden Surprenant Show. Coming up, we have Gwen and Chris. And then we'll have the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show with Sam Levitt. Coming up after that at 2:40. Very quick Gwen and Chris show today. We got a thing in the... people don't understand what the contracts here in professional sports, like how money works or like systems of money. You can't... It's not all the same. It's not cookie cutter. Like somebody said, greed is actually capitalism in college sports. Y'all just want to go back to socialism. No, it's not. It's not even close to being the same comparison. College athletics is built around, not really college, but professional athletics. The entire business model is about competitive balance. That's what the business is. It's trying to make things competitive because that's what the entertainment is. It's not a business built on having everybody make as much money as humanly possible. That's not what their business is. Their business is about making things competitive. That's why they have collective bargaining agreements on all these roster rules and everything like that. Like somebody tried to call in and compare, like, with some of these contracts getting out of control. And we mentioned it with the Padres, right? Like the Dodgers being able to spend ample amount of money. I mentioned the salary cap in Major League Baseball. And somebody was like, well, people wouldn't like, you wouldn't like it if they capped your salary. Well, the basis of radio is not for competition against all each other. It's not trying to make everything the most competitive market possible. That's not how this works. That's what sports is. That's the business of sports. That's what they signed up to do in the business of sports. It's for the entire business model is having a league that is entertaining to watch, and what is an entertaining league to watch is one that is very competitive. That's the goal of the sport. That's why people are interested in this particular thing with college athletics in the first place, is because of teams competing and seeing teams from small markets being able to compete with large markets and competition and the drama. I mean, that's the entertainment value in that. The whole thing with NIL, of course, was the how dumb it was that some kid that started a YouTube page was making money off a successful YouTube page, but was also going to be a college athlete, all of a sudden had to forfeit his YouTube page because it would be considered a benefit, an illegal benefit. That was what was done with college athletics. I mean, if you look at everything in general, I mean, what they get as a college athlete is phenomenal. I'm surrounded college athletes all the time with my work. It's a sweet gig to have. On top of the fact of having a free education, which people just do not value whatsoever. Intelligent people understand the value of a free education, but other people just get they don't understand the value in it. And you don't have to go to college to be a successful individual. I know a lot of people that are very successful that did not go to college. But being able to get a degree, and I will admit, I mean, some of the degrees are not as valuable as they've been in the past for what you're having to pay to earn said degree, but leaving college without any type of debt is insane. It's insane. It's such a great advantage to have. So they get that. They get all the, nice everything. I mean, everything about traveling with TCU football is awesome. Charter jets and nice hotels. I mean, we stayed in the same hotels the Dallas Cowboys would stay in. And when we were in major cities, we were flying. We had the same jet that they had from American Airlines. You work for a college football team, you're never hungry. You get inundated with food all the time and all the best food. We used to have steak and lobster at the athletes dining area that was strictly for athletes. Nobody else was allowed in there unless you worked for the team, and only sporadically were we allowed to eat in the athletes area, and that was only on breaks when we were supposed to be home with our families but had to stay with college athletics because we would play during the holidays, which is also insane. We used to get super nice meals, but that was only with the college athletes. This is just how the business model is. And the thing is, and again, another guy in the chat that just doesn't know how the business of college athletics works. I don't necessarily think administrators, executives from networks, and middle managers make all the money. I mean, you're acting like the deal that the college players get is such a it's such a terrible deal. Such a terrible deal. No, I don't want that. I want parity in the league. That's what makes the league entertaining. And here's what people don't understand. Once the general public loses all interest in college athletics, nobody's making any money. And the only reason why they make money is because the product is entertaining, because people have pride in their school, because of the logo on the schools. That's why people watch this stuff. It's not because of players playing at the college level. It's I have connections to schools, and that's why I watch. And when it gets to a point where people are so fed up with all of the moving around in a brand new team every year and hired guns and everything like that, and all the players not being loyal to the school that you support because that's the only reason why you watch it, the money's going to go down because the TV contracts or TV companies aren't going to be getting the same ratings, which means they're not going to be able to sell it for the same amount of money, which means they're not going to be willing to spend major dollars on TV rights deals, which means everybody's going to get less. And then all of a sudden, everybody's making less money because nobody wants to watch the sport anymore. It's not the new system is capitalism and the old system is socialism. That is such a beyond stupid comment. I mean, it's just so stupid. It doesn't make any sense. Players are getting paid. They're getting paid more money than the top 1% of earners in the United States. And not all of them. There's a lot of kids that play college athletics that are doing it for education. And those are the kids that are going to lose opportunities because of some of the top 1% in college athletics want to get a major payout as soon as possible. And that's their prerogative. But to say it's like the same as like a system of capitalism and socialism, I mean, that is just beyond absurd. We're not even comparing the same two things right now. Beyond absurd. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Braden Surprenant show leading you up to the Gwynn and Chris program, which will start at 2 o'clock. EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show coming up at 2:40 with first pitch coming up at 3:40. Lineup today, Tatis Jr., Gavin Sheets, Manny Machado, Xander Bogaerts, Oscar Gonzalez, Jose Iglesias, Elias Diaz, Tyler Wade, Mason McCoy. That is your starting 9 for the Padres against the Detroit Tigers. This afternoon's matchup will be Nick Pivetta versus Jack Flaherty. Pivetta been outstanding to start the season. He's a 3-1 record with a 1.57 ERA and 24 strikeouts over 23 innings. He has done a lot better of a job at home than he has done on the road. And so we'll like to see a bounce back outing out of Nick Pivetta, at least on the road. We'll see how the Padres do. The Padres have had some problems on the road so far this year. They have not been able to hit with runners in scoring position on the road as much as they have had at home. They have not gotten the best starts out of their starting pitcher on the road as they have had at home. So we'll see how Nick Pivetta does. Padres needed some good starting pitching. Good starting pitching yesterday would have resulted in a win for the San Diego Padres. Instead, Randy Vásquez didn't have it. Jack Flaherty, the starting pitcher for the Detroit Tigers. He enters with a 1-1 record at a 2.53 ERA. In his last outing, he allowed 3 earned runs over 4 2/3 innings. Detroit Tigers bullpen is very, very good. Not as good as the Padres bullpen. But Jack Flaherty, getting to him early would be very beneficial to the Padres, especially if they want to win the next 2 games against Detroit and finish with a 500 road trip. Looking at the injury updates, Arraez and concussion protocols on the 7-day injured list after a collision on Sunday Night Baseball on April 20th. Latest update we had is hopefully expecting him to not spend too much time on that list as soon as he is eligible to return. It sounds like he should be returning, but the Padres don't want to put a timetable on anybody, and nor should they. They don't have to. They don't need to tell everybody what's going on with their organization at all times, especially when it comes to injuries. Jason Hayward, left knee inflammation, was placed on the 10-day injured list. He is going to be out, as mentioned. Jake Cronenworth, rib fracture. Jackson Merrill, hamstring strain, remain sidelined. Our latest updates on the injury report for the San Diego Padres, with Arraez being in concussion protocol, he is expected to come back late April, early May. As we mentioned before, a day after he suffered the injury, he entered concussion protocol, but was alert and testing favorably, per manager Mike Schilt. Yu Darvish, with his right elbow inflammation, could potentially return in May. Latest update we had on him was yesterday. Darvish is thrown off the mound a couple of times, though not quite at the intensity of a regular bullpen. His first true bullpen is expected to come the week of April 21st. Jason Hayward, with the left knee, as mentioned before, underwent imaging after he was scratched from the lineup on April 18th. Manager Mike Schilt only offered that the club does not expect the injury to be, quote, long-term. That was the update that we had from Schilt on Hayward. He's expected to return in May. Jake Cronenworth has a non-displaced right rib fracture. He was placed on the injured list on April 11th. He has resumed light baseball activity, throwing, fielding, and getting some swings in. It will be several weeks before the fracture fully heals, but he could return before it actually does. We had that update yesterday from the San Diego Padres. He's expected to return sometime in May. Jackson Merrill, with his right hamstring strain, eligible to return already, but he didn't travel to Houston as he continues to do light running at Petco Park while building towards more baseball activity. He's expected to return as late April. Brandon Lockridge did light running and plyometrics before the Padres game on April 16th alongside Jackson Merrill. He's expected late April as well. Brian Hoeing, who we had a little bit of an update on back on April 15th, has been throwing for a couple weeks. Rejoined the Padres in San Diego and threw his first bullpen session with breaking balls back on April 15th. Continue to watch Fernando Tatis Jr. as he continues to excel, leading the National League with 8 home runs and maintaining a .349 batting average. Gavin Sheets has stepped up amid injuries. He's hitting .344 with 3 home runs. Sheets and Fernando Tatis Jr. going to lead the way for the Padres today. I'd like to see a little bit more of Manny Machado not chasing again. He's looked really good in that particular field. And again, that kind of matchup with Jack Flaherty should be very interesting for the San Diego Padres. Game will start again at 3:40 with Eco Water SoCal Padres pregame show at 2:40 coming up right after Gwen and Chris. A little 40-minute show for the boys in the afternoon. We'll be off tomorrow as we will have Padres baseball at 10:10 in the morning, and we'll get you ready for an early Padre game. We're gonna have a quick turnaround after tonight. Which you can hear right here on 97.3 The Fan. But tomorrow, just to do a little bit of housekeeping on some things, tomorrow we will be off, and then we'll be back on Thursday for the Padres Roundtable at 10 in the morning. I think is that the one that's hosted by Chris this week? We got Chris Ello hosting the Roundtable this week. So we should have a lot to talk about in Padres land with Chris Ello hosting the Roundtable on Thursday. That will be from 10 to 11, and then I will take over from 11 to about 2 o'clock, and then I'll take a little bit of a break, get some lunch and everything like that, and then rejoin Chris Ello and Matt Scraby at 5 o'clock for our coverage of the NFL Draft. They'll re-air the Roundtable on Thursday at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So should be a fun rest of the week here on 97.3 The Fan. Again, Padres continue their series against the Tigers coming up tonight. Then we got some Padres baseball against the Rays for another homestand against Tampa and San Francisco. We talked a little bit about it earlier on in the show, but you look at what potentially the deadline could look like for the Padres. I had a lot of people asking about that already thinking about the trade deadline. It's not till July 31st. There's still a lot of baseball that needs to be played. But it might be set up for a least exciting deadline in a long time, where everything is at right now with the Padres and Major League Baseball, and what the Padres have to offer as well as what is available out there. If Sandy Alcantara of the Marlins might be available, if things decide to go south for Miami, which I think they eventually would. Luis Robert Jr. of the White Sox, Nolan Arenado of the Cardinals, Framber Valdez of the Astros, Logan Gilbert of the Mariners, and Bo Bichette of the Blue Jays, Marcell Ozuna of the Braves. I mean, those are potential trade pieces available. Not a lot of them knock my socks off in terms of like giving up something important for them. So with a lot of teams that are buying and not a lot out there, it's very much a seller's market where I don't think there's going to be too much movement. Ha-Seong Kim is not playing for the Rays this weekend. He's not. I don't think he's eligible to return. I don't think he's going to be back until like June. I mean, he's going to be gone for a long time. So no, you will not see Ha-Seong Kim this weekend when the Rays come to town. Little pre-scout of the Rays. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973 if you want to join the conversation before we wrap things up. But I do want to talk, just a little bit briefly about the way the Padres have been playing. Again, I think right now, and we've talked about it earlier in the show, this is the time for the Padres just to tread water. With the injuries that they have, I know some people were upset about yesterday's game, and the Padres have lost 4 of 6 and everything like that. It's still early in the season. But you look at the schedule and the upcoming schedule, the Padres have a very favorable schedule to have most of their injuries happen right now. I mean, Detroit's good. They're not great. The lineup that Detroit has put out today is nothing overly scary. When you look at their lineup, Carpenter back in the lineup today. He missed some time due to an injury. He's hitting .315 this year. Gleyber Torres had a good day yesterday. He's hitting .304 now. Riley Green has moved up a couple of spots. Spencer Torkelson, who's off to a great start, will back cleanup. And then it goes Malloy, Young, Dingler, and Sweeney, and Baez. Baez getting his second consecutive start in center field tonight for the Tigers. But again, not a world beater team. Padres playing a lot of American League teams right now early in the season because, again, you got to play everybody in Major League Baseball. But you look at the upcoming schedule for the Padres, and again, for everybody that is worried about where they're at, they're still tied for the best record in baseball. Tigers this rest of this week, Tampa over the weekend, who are not playing good baseball. Giants should be a decent test for the Padres, but to get them at home, Padres have been way better at home than they've been on the road. Hopefully by that time, you should be seeing a couple players back for the Padres. And then after that, here's your month of May to get right. At Pittsburgh, at the Yankees, who both teams in the National League West that have already gone to New York have taken 2 out of 3, the Diamondbacks and the Giants. Got the Rockies on the road, followed by the Halos at home, Mariners at home, road trip to Toronto and Atlanta, and then home for Miami and Pittsburgh. That's a great stretch for the Padres. Great stretch for the Padres to continue to get healthy, which it sounds like they're going to over the course of that time, and to continue to load up on wins early in the season. Because coming up in June, as mentioned before, schedule gets a lot more difficult. There's 2 stretches for the Padres that are difficult stretches. One is June 2nd to June 22nd, and the other one is in August. From August 4th through August 24th. Those are the 2 biggest stretches for the San Diego Padres. Or they have to be at full strength to continue their winning ways. That's again why I've mentioned why it was so important for them to get off to a good start. It gives you more leeway, so when you do get injured right now and you get banged up, you don't have to live and die on every pitch with the depth. You can understand that they're doing the best with what they got right now. And if they can win the next 2 in Detroit and have a 500 road trip, there's nothing more you can ask for there. Even if they just get one of the next 2, I still consider it a reasonable road trip considering the circumstances of no Arraez, no Merrill, no Cronenworth. 3 of your 6 core players right there. And the depth getting hurt with Hayward and Brandon Lockridge, and even not having Yu Darvish. That'll do it for me on a Tuesday. Padres baseball coming up at 3:40. Ecowater SoCal Padres pregame show at 2:40. I'll be back on Thursday as we have a morning game tomorrow. We'll have a lot of coverage for you on Thursday. But coming up next, Tony Gwynn Jr., Chris Ello, Matt Scraby with Gwynn and Chris on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.